We can never get it right. That's true. Yeah.
Oh, that man's a old fat man. I can't believe Oh, yeah. Yes, it's fire also. Thanks for
All right, here we go. I call the meeting to order. Good evening and welcome to the April 15th, 2025 business meeting of your Ashland City Council. Councilor Bloom will offer the land acknowledgement.
Thank you. We acknowledge and honor the Aboriginal people on whose ancestral homelands we work, the Kirikutsum Band of the Shasta Nation, as well as the diverse and vibrant Native communities who make their home here today. We honor the first stewards in the Rogue Valley and the lands we love and depend on. Tribes with ancestral lands in and surrounding the geography of the Ashland watershed include the original past, present, and future Indigenous inhabitants of the Shasta, Takelma, and Athabascan people. We also recognize and acknowledge the Shasta village of Quakaka, where the crow lights, that is now the Ashland City Plaza.
Thank you. And Councilor Nauer will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Alyssa.
Nauer.
Here.
Dale.
Here.
Bloom.
Here.
Graham. Here. Kaplan.
Here.
Duquesne. Here. Hanson.
Here.
Great, thank you. We have several mayor's announcements this evening. The first is, if you have come this evening and you would like to speak to the council, the way that you do that is you will fill out one of those forms in that little tray right on the shelf there, and make sure that you give it to Alyssa, our recorder, before the agenda item that you're wanting to speak on. If you've come this evening to talk to us about a particular agenda item, make sure that you write that on the form. If you've come here this evening to speak to us about something that is not on the agenda, you will speak during public forum, and so make sure that you indicate that you're here to speak for public forum, and that will help us bring you up at the appropriate time. And just so that you know, all of the forms have to be in before we get to the beginning of the agenda item so that we can appropriately time everything. So please make sure that you get them up in time. We are in the middle now of our Better Prepared Wildfire Preparation Series, and there are a couple of events coming up. On April 21st at 6 p.m. at Carpenter Hall, there will be a preparedness workshop. We also have two events in early May. The first is on Sunday, May 4th, they're doing the green debris drop-off at Valley View Transfer Station, so you can take your green debris there for free, and then there'll be some additional events coming up later in May. Information is available on the website. The website also has information about the upcoming budget process, and so if you have questions about what that process looks like and how you can get involved with it, there is a budget element on the website. You just have to do a quick search and it'll take you right to it. We also have, in looking at our agenda this evening, we have a couple of things that are more time sensitive, and so we will be shifting the order when we get to unfinished business and bringing the water cost of service study and rate study final draft update to the first item under unfinished business. So if you are here to speak to any items under unfinished business, just know that we are shifting that order somewhat. And now I will give the floor to Councilor Nauer.
Thank you, Mayor, for your indulgence. Just a quick statement, folks. To the mayor and to councilors and to the residents of Ashland, I have been dealing with a difficult family situation since the end of last year. It has become increasingly distracting for me, and it's now apparent that I cannot handle it properly from here in Ashland. Because of this, and with great regret, I will be leaving Ashland soon, as soon as the house sells. And when I'm finished with these words, will resign my seat on council. Before that happens, I want you all to know that I love this town of ours. I embarked on my campaign with the expectation of helping Ashland be its best self, and these last few months have required a lot of work to serve you well as councilor. But make no mistake, I was loving it, and I would stay if I could. So to council, I wish my colleagues all the best. You've got a lot of work in front of you, I know. To you folks, to the residents here in the audience and those online and those who will read about this tomorrow, I thank you for the opportunity to have served you even for this short time. I offer my best wishes to this body and to the great community of Ashland. I've been here 6 years and I have loved it. Mayor, council, I tender my resignation from the Ashland City Council, effective immediately. And I ask your permission and indulgence to leave the dais.
That's granted, and we will take a 5-minute recess.
Pleasure serving with keep honest. Best wishes. He wants to retract this. Thank you. Oh, that's big, 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 great.
Are we ready? Okay. We will reconvene now. And in our agenda, we are to the approval of minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Councilor Dale?
Just a pointed, where would be the proper time to make a motion to address what we just heard?
What we just did. Let's do this. I'll open it up after the minutes.
Perfect, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and make a motion for the minutes.
Any corrections to the minutes? No. Councilor Bloom?
Thank you. I move approval of the March 31st and April 1st study session and business meeting minutes.
Second.
Roll call, please, Alyssa.
Hanson,
Yes.
Duquesne,
Yes.
Kaplan,
Yes.
Bloom,
Yes.
Dale.
Yes,
Councilor Dale?
thank you, Mayor. Mayor, it is with an extremely heavy heart that I need to make a motion to add an item to our business meeting agenda per AMC 2.04.030C.
Would,
Second.
Councilor Dale?
No, I don't know how to speak to it.
No,
Any conversation? It is to discuss the opening that we now have on the council and the timing for what that process will look like.
So I'm,
Roll call, please, Alyssa.
Bloom,
yes.
Dale,
yes,
Hanson,
Yes.
Duquesne,
Yes.
Kaplan.
Yes.
Thank you. We are now to the consent, go ahead.
oh, Mayor, I actually have, that was to add the agenda item.
Yeah,
I need to
I
make
did.
the motion now.
Oh, yes.
Thank you, Mayor.
Oh, the motion to
Add the item.
actually add the item. Okay, go ahead.
Got it. All right, thank you. I move that the City of Ashland accept applications for the vacant council position through 5 p.m. on May 14th, 2025, with council member interviews completed by May 31st, 2025, and appointment to occur at the June 3rd, 2025 council business meeting.
A second.
Go ahead,
Okay,
Councilor Dale.
Sure. Per Article 3, Section 4 of the Ashland Charter, the council has 60 days to elect a qualified person. Qualified, by charter definition, means a resident of Ashland, but qualified to all of us is much more than that. I believe the most important aspect of this schedule is that it provides a clearly sufficient amount of time for interested individuals to submit applications, a reasonable amount of time for council members to conduct interviews, then allows for the application appointment to occur 10 days before the 60 days is up. There's about a week and a half of buffer if we need to schedule any special meeting for any unforeseen consequence or for any unforeseen delays. I'd like to note that it is not lost on me that we are in the middle of budget season with the CBC. I've reached out to the Oregon Department of Revenue, and there is no issue as it relates to our budget meetings and laws pertaining to quorum. CBC meetings are obviously open to the public, and I'd especially encourage applicants to attend those meetings. While they will not be able to vote, obviously, this will be an invaluable method to be as informed as possible as a new councilor will hit the ground running in the new biennium. I'm not interested in rushing through this extremely important process.
Councilor Bloom.
Yes, thank you. I concur. I think that it's important that we take the time and allow the community the time to weigh if this is something that they're interested in doing. Given this timeline, I think it's appropriate. It'll provide ample opportunity to have, hopefully, like the last time we did appointments, a good number of 18 to 20 potential applicants. With that being said, we also need time to vet those applicants for us to be able to interview them and receive community feedback so that the person that is appointed is somebody who is going to be representing the community in the way that we all would expect. So I appreciate the motion. I appreciate the timeline. There's no need to rush this, and I hope that the rest of the council agrees with that as well.
Councilor Dale, could you repeat the deadlines from your motion?
Absolutely, Mayor. Yes, the deadline to submit an application is May 14th, 2025, which is 30 days approximately from today. The time interval for council members to complete interviews will be May 31st. That's approximately 2 weeks. And then after that, that would be, I believe, a Saturday. And then the following Tuesday will be an agenda item to appoint, or to have a vote to appoint an applicant for the vacant seat. The 60-day interval is up on June 13th. So that gives us time, potentially, we should be able to see if there is anything where we need a special meeting before or after June 3rd. I just don't want to bring it right up to the deadline of the 60 days for any unforeseen issues.
Discussion. Councilor Hanson? Sure.
You stated that you talked with the Department of Revenue, and I know that's fine, that you can always have a vacancy on your board, but then the number of budget members has to be reduced too. So
No.
So I went over that, and just to answer that for everybody that's interested, the ORS 294.414 stipulates that if there is a change in number of elected seats by law or charter amendment, like for instance, if we passed a charter amendment reducing the council members, then we would have to remove a budget committee member. But given that we have no charter amendment or law change, it's just a matter of whether quorum per budget law is met. Thank you.
Councilor Hanson?
Yeah, first a question. Councilor Nauer was serving a 4-year term. Would this appointment be 2 years and then re-elect? Okay.
Yes, it
And-
would be 2 years to the next general election, and then the winner of that election would hold the seat for 2 years before it comes up again.
Right. Right. Well, to the community, this is a unique opportunity to join council, and I urge you to talk with your neighbors and friends and family and encourage them to apply. It's an amazing experience. It is a lot of hard work, but it is very rewarding, and running for election is laborious. This is kind of a gentler way to get on council, and then you can think about it for 2 years. So with open arms, I welcome you to apply.
Other discussion?
I agree. Ditto.
Sabrina?
Just a point of clarification. If we have the application up by this Friday on our website and push out the press release, are you good with that?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anything else that staff needs in terms of the motion or the direction? Okay. If there's no additional discussion, roll call please, Alyssa.
Dale,
Yes.
Bloom,
Yes.
Kaplan.
Yes.
Duquesne,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Thank you. We are now to the consent agenda. Would any counselor like to remove any item from the consent agenda? Councilor Duquesne.
We only have the one. It seems to be all lumped together on the consent agenda. So yes, I would like to pull an item from, I'd like to pull the consent agenda for discussion.
In the single item, the budget transfers?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So let's go ahead and take that up. What are your questions or concerns?
Thank you, Mayor. Pulling the items for transferring the budget supplementals, I had a question regarding the facility capital projects for, where am I looking at? Oh, here, for Pioneer Hall and the Community Center, because when I look at this, and thank you, our finance director, when I look at this, transferring the money tells me that we will be opening Pioneer Hall and the Community Center. Is that correct?
Not necessarily. So this isn't transferring money, it's transferring budget, and it's to cover funds that have already been spent on the community center and Pioneer Hall. We have been incurring expenses thus far, and we're just moving the budget to its proper location, which always should have been in the CIP. But for whatever reason, last biennium, it was put into the general fund. So we're just moving the budget, not the funds.
So for whatever reason, it was moved there and now we're covering it. Is that correct?
Correct.
Do we know the outstanding debt that's out there until this project can be completed, or are we going to discuss that later?
I would defer to discuss that a little bit later. Debt, I'm not quite sure I'm understanding the question.
So there's, the work is still going on, so we're incurring costs as it goes. So council made the choice to move forward with community center. That's still going forward. Pioneer Hall is getting finished up, so we don't have a final cost yet, as they're still working.
Because they're still working. We don't have the final dates yet either, because it's my understanding Pioneer Hall was first to be done, and that was going to be in April.
Yeah, so there are, supply chain delays and whatnot that happen with construction. So still moving forward, but nothing is finalized yet. And per Director Berry, this is just the construction cost. This is not operating dollars for the building.
Exactly. Thank you, Finance Director. And then I had another question regarding the insurance funds. And it says that it's within the city's legal budgetary. Can you tell me about this insurance funds and the money being moved here?
So during the biennium, there was a legal settlement, and in the legal settlement, we were required to pay the settlement out of personnel, the personnel line. During the budget process, we did not budget anything in the personnel line, so that category was not appropriated. So it is required by budget law to do a budget supplemental to move the budget from materials and services in the insurance fund to personnel, because it's a new appropriated category. So it's not new funds, it's funds that have already been appropriated, but because it's a new appropriation category, we must do a budget supplemental.
Supplement. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So the 3 budget transfer requests are spread across 2 resolutions in your packet. And so for the council to move forward, we will need motions on one and then the other if you would like to consider them. Councilor Dale?
Mayor, I'm more than happy to make a motion. I just had one more question within something,
Yes.
if that's okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mary Ann. Yeah, this all looks fine. It's just, I was considering pulling these as well, just because it is budget season, and we just, to be able to just have that on the record and talk about it. The one that you have under admin where it says explanation of request, need to increase appropriation level in personnel services as to stay within the city's budgetary compliance. Can you just add a little bit of
On the tourism
context to
fund?
that? Yeah, just kind of why that is.
So essentially, we under budgeted the step increase and the whatever increases for that particular personnel line was under budgeted. And so it's essentially ensuring that we don't go out of compliance, and it's just moving from materials and services to personnel.
Perfect.
Okay.
Any further questions? Councilor Dale?
Happy to make a motion. You just need one point of clarification. Doug, I can let you go this soon. Can I do one motion with 2 resolutions, or do I need a motion for each resolution?
Well, it's on the consent calendar.
Yeah, but
It's on the consent calendar, so if you're going to, you may have pulled them out, but if you're going to go ahead and bring
just
it back.
approve the consent agenda is all I need to do then?
That's what I would do.
Okay,
This is just
fair enough. Move to approve the consent agenda.
There a second?
Second.
Roll call, please, Alyssa.
Bloom,
Yes.
Dale,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Duquesne,
Yes.
Kaplan.
Yes.
Thank you.
So as it turns out, our new city attorney is joining us towards the end of this month. So this is the last meeting that Acting City Attorney Doug McGeary is going to have to try to herd these cats. So we have something for you, Doug. We wanted to express our appreciation as a council for all of the work and the effort and the heart that Doug has put into his assistance for this council over the last couple of years, the guidance and answering the many questions that come to him from people who are not steeped in Oregon law. And I imagine that sometimes those, take a little more time than one might imagine to help us understand what we need to understand to do our job. So we wanted to say thank you, Doug, and to offer you this historic Ashland in rare photographs, because we know you are quite the history buff, and we thought you might appreciate that, and that it might remind you of your time here in Ashland, and remind you of all the good work that you have done and how much we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yes, history indeed.
Parliamentarian. Yes.
All right, thank you very much.
Oh, where are we?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
Coffee, okay, come be ready. Okay.
Okay, we are now to public forum. Alyssa, have we received any signups for public forum?
No.
No. Okay. We will move on now to our first public hearing. and that is for 2025-2026 Community Development Block Grant Award and Action Plan. Did we get a public vote? No, for this. Sabrina, who will be coming to us this evening? Oh, here we go.
Be Linda and Rand. Just Linda? Linda, you doing this? All right, Linda Reed, our housing manager. Thank you.
Yeah, push that front silver button. There you go.
Okay, how's that? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm Linda Reed, the Housing Program Manager for the city. I was caught a little off guard there, but I'm here now. So, way back in January, the city issued a request for proposals for community development block grant funding. The city limited the application request to public service activities and utilized the maximum percentage of CDBG grant funding the program allows for public service activities. The city did not offer the full amount of funding for competitive requests, opting instead to reserve the remaining funding to address facility improvements at 2200 Ashland Street Shelter Building, which you all approved earlier in the year. The city received 2 applications for the funding offered. Maslow Project submitted an application to continue providing case management and resources to address homelessness and at-risk students and families engaged with the Ashland School District. And Opportunities for Housing Resources and Assistance also submitted an application to expand the laundry shower trailer program and outreach service days and locations. The Housing and Human Services Advisory Committee reviewed the grant applications and heard from the applicants at their regular meeting on March 27th. At that time, the committee recommended to fully fund Maslow Project at the requested amount of $18,000 and award the remaining $6,395 in public service funding to ORA. So I believe that at least one applicant is here, although there may, okay, both applicants are here, and they can speak about their proposals or answer any questions that you may have. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about the CDBG program or process or anything related to that.
Great, thank you. Questions about the process first?
Sure.
About the process? Okay, and then we have the applications in our packet, but are there any questions about the proposals? Councilor Bloom.
Yes, thank you. So this is regarding ORA's application. So they indicated that funds will be used to expand the laundry shower trailer to better serve North Ashland. However, in their presentation, they acknowledged that there isn't a location identified yet. The idea being, if not, they will keep it on site on Ashland Street and potentially be busing folks over to that location. But there's kind of a further issue here that we are not awarding the full amount, and so there is a gap in that funding and the ability to secure that laundry shower trailer. So my concern is the potential of this funding kind of sitting unused when it could otherwise go to another organization and be used right away.
So, I mean, I would guess I would allow ORA to address the concern about the timing. For CDBG, no other applicants applied, so we could potentially reallocate that funding if necessary to a project like the 2200 Ashland Street. It's a little unusual to, I mean, otherwise we would have to go out through another process, and it's such a small amount of money. We can also hold the money and add it to next year's balance.
Just a follow-up question before ORA is able to respond to this. Is it possible to award the full $24,395 to Maslow instead, even if they didn't request that full amount?
Sure, it is possible.
Okay, thank you. And see somebody's up here, so.
Yes, if you can respond to that. And would you like to have them come? If you'd like, you can come up to the front.
I will turn it over to the both of them if you would like, and then can come back for questions.
Okay, great.
Is this on? Okay, good.
It is, we can hear you.
Yeah, that's a great question. And you're right, like it begs the question of you only get 6,000, what can you do with it? The answer to that is, ORA's been able to grow, thankfully, and with seed money from the city of Ashland. We're able to leverage our existing staff. What we were going to do is, if we are going to find a location, is use this money to dedicate a staff to another location. If we couldn't find a location, then dedicate them for coordination. But what we would do with less money is allocate existing staff, which we could do just a 0.2%, reduce their duties from something else, and then allow them to. And also, it gives us an opportunity to really try and leverage other funding from other sources. We support Maslow also. So if that's what the city council wants to do, we would support that too.
Great, thank you. And if you're available, I have some additional questions, if that's okay.
Sure, go ahead.
Since I've got you here. So one of the things too that stood out to me, that the application describes an increase in service from 2 days to 3 days per week, and only 1 day possibly occurring at the new site. And looking at the numbers here, the plan is to increase shower capacity by only 28 from the 54 served with the existing laundry and shower trailer, and only 14 more wash loads. So I'm really curious, I guess, in terms of efficacy, how does that math when you're talking about a whole new additional laundry shower trailer, but only increasing the capacity by 28?
And if you can introduce yourself and just tell us who you are.
Yeah, my name's Dan Cano. I'm the executive director of ORA. Another good question. From an operational standpoint, I always work to slightly under promise and over deliver, for one thing. On the other hand, I think that the laundry shower trailer is a big beast to move around, and we're trying to make it more mobile. We have a new one coming in. We're putting in automatic levelers. So the hours are going to be tough. So if we find a place, it would probably be set up that morning or the night before. There'd probably be reduced hours. And initially, it would take us like 6 months to a year. And this is, in some way, we're going to make this happen again. I mean, this is Ashland's our home. But we wrote the program to really say, look, let's make this a quality new program. Let's be practical about getting it going. And we don't know the flow. I mean, if we find some place on the north side of Ashland, that we don't know the flow of the people that are in need there, and we might need to move it. So a lot of it was, we can't predict everything, just being practical, but it was kind of my hope and expectation that we would actually serve a lot more.
Any other questions? Councilor Duquesne.
Thank you, Mayor. I have one quick clarification. So you don't have a location on the north side yet, is that correct?
No, we don't. We are literally just getting our brand new shower trailer next month. The reason we haven't been working hard is because it's a custom thing, and every month we've been getting a new date. It's coming from the East Coast. So we've just been careful with that. We finally got pictures and confirmed that it's going to be on a truck heading this way in about 3 weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Bloom?
Yeah, thank you. So one of the presentation that one of your staffers came and provided to the Housing and Human Services Committee mentioned that, you are getting the new one, and you have an existing one, and there's one to be repaired as well that is going in for repairs, or has already potentially. Yeah. I'm just curious because it didn't say that in the application, and so I'm curious why. It's a pretty important, operational detail, and it was omitted from the application. Why is that?
Well, the repairs are just, this one's been in service for quite a while. The repairs are simply, we're going to replace there's actually washer and dryer in there, so we're going to replace those. The repairs are only going to take about 3 weeks.
Okay.
Great. Okay.
I have additional, but I don't want to beat them up too much.
Well,
I can meet one-on-one with you too anytime.
Yeah.
You're welcome. I'll give you a tour.
That would be
Come on
fine.
over.
If it's not necessary for the decision this evening, then I think maybe it can hold. Any further questions? Okay, the floor is open. Oh, no,
I'm happy to make a motion.
we have a hearing that we have to open up. So I open the public hearing. We have two people who have signed up to speak to us on this issue this evening. We have Dan Cano and also Cheyenne Nichols. And so you'll both speak at the podium there. You'll have 3 minutes. The timer is new this year, or to this meeting, so you'll see that the timer is going to tick down. It also, the little light indicator up there is going to take you from green to yellow to red as you start to get closer to the end of your time. And Alyssa is going to give you a nice little chime, still at 20 seconds. We're going to keep with that tradition. So please, if you are not done when the last chime goes at the end of your time, please finish your sentence at that point so we can move on to the next speaker. Please introduce yourself, give us your name and the city in which you reside, and then you'll have your 3 minutes. We'll start.
Thank you. And I'll reduce this because I've already kind of spoken a little bit. Good evening. My name's Dan Cano. I'm privileged to serve as the Executive Director of ORA. I live in Ashland, just here on Main Street. I'm here this evening to support the staff's recommendation to fund both our proposals for CDBG funds, our funds as well as Maslow Project's proposal, of course with the larger share going to Maslow. ORA's proposal asked for funding to support an increased presence for a new laundry shower trailer in other parts of Ashland. Maslow's project supports school-based case management services in Ashland for unhoused youth. As the staff report rightly states, a reduced amount of funding will not reduce ORA's current laundry shower trailer services on Ashland Street, since this request is for expansion of the existing services and not to maintain them. I think it's important to recognize that the reason we're able to maintain the shower trailer services is because of the city's robust support of all of our programs over the years. This support has included support for purchasing our existing shower trailer, support of our shelter operations in the past, and most recently support of our new commercial kitchen, which will be opening later this month. Please keep a lookout for an invitation. We're also proud to know that Ashland City Council provided the seed money to start ORA in its first resource center back in 2014. Without our partnership, ORA would not be where it is today. And without Maslow Project working in our schools, ORA would lose a critical partner in Ashland who works closely with our staff to keep youth and families housed. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheyenne Nichols?
Hello, thank you so much for having me. My name is Cheyenne Nichols. I'm a program director at Maslow Project, and I reside here in Ashland as well. And thank you for the shout out from ORA. I really appreciate that. Super nice to be in partnership. I am here in support of funding for our CDBG application for this biennium. And I think the best way in order for us to show our impact and the work that we have been doing here in Ashland is to share a story. So I'm going to read a story from a young person that we have been serving. Liz first came to Ashland High School after the loss of her mother and her grandmother, who shared who she could no longer care for her. She landed here finding a place on her sister's couch. With Maslow Project's help, she got enrolled at Ashland High School and shared with us that she was struggling with her mental health and her attendance to get to school. Now that our Ashland case manager has been working with her for some time, she's back on track, she's receiving straight A's, and she'll be graduating in June. She has been accepted to RCC and plans to attend in the fall. She shared with us this year that I have no idea where I would be without Maslow Project. They have given me the push I need to get through that dark space and gave me the confidence and resources to succeed in the classroom and in my life. Liz has become an advocate for Maslow Project on campus, bringing other students that are in similar situations to her case manager's attention. Liz is excited to graduate and go out to make a difference in the world. CDBG really allows us to support our continued prevention-based work here in Ashland, offering multi-lane wraparound support for youth and families. Your contribution allows us to continue our extensive case management in our schools and this community as a whole, and to our families that are living in Snowberry Brook 2, which is, we have 15 units over there. Unhoused youth and families are the invisible population, and we know this work is making an impact on their future endeavors. Thank you again, Council and Mayor, this evening for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll close the public hearing. Are there any final questions of staff? Okay, the floor is open for a motion. Councilor Hanson?
I'm honored. Thank you. I move to approve the 2025-2029 Consolidated Plan for the use of Community Development Block Grant Funds as presented, including the minor revisions recommended by the Housing and Human Services Advisory Committee.
Linda's.
I appreciate that, and I'll look for that in the next agenda item, but we'll have to go back in agenda.
I'm happy to make a motion.
sorry.
That's okay. It's okay. Say that again in like 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Linda. I appreciate that. I am not without my errors, and I appreciate your patience. I would like to make a motion. I move to award the competitively available 2025 community block grant funds as follows: $18,000 to Maslow Project, Public Service Project, and $6,395 to the Aura Laundry Shower Program expansion.
Councilor Hanson?
Thank you. Sorry about that. Good catch. These funds are necessary for these two organizations to maintain services, and the laundry shower expansion is a great service. I remember first stumbling upon such a service at the First United Methodist on the north side of Ashland, and in my neighborhood there, and there was such joy and just compassion and resiliency that I saw there, and I'm glad that we're expanding it, and I look forward to hearing about the successes of both Maslow and Aura from these funds.
Councilor Kaplan?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to second this motion. These are two great organizations that do a lot of really important work with our vulnerable population here in Ashland. I think it's a testament that they do work together on in many areas, both with children and then also making sure that supporting over at the Aura Center. I just met with Mary Farrell this afternoon, and she was explaining to me how how Maslow Project supports over with some of their family placements in the Cedar Inn. So I'm happy to support this. I think it's not a lot of money, but it's really well spent. And I also want to thank the Housing and Human Services Committee for the work that they put in to evaluate these two proposals. And then it's always difficult to find the way to allocate insufficient funds to two organizations, and I think they came up with a sensible approach. So I'm happy to support this.
Councilor Bloom?
Yeah, thank you. I move to amend Councilor Hanson's motion to allocate the fully competitive available 2025 Community Development Block Grant Funds in the amount of $24,395 to the Maslow Project Public Service Project.
I'll second that.
Councilor Bloom?
Yes, thank you. So to be clear, I recognize and appreciate the value of the LST service in supporting the health and employment potential of unhoused residents. That will not go away. They already have multiple trailers, and they are getting a new one coming in. My criticism lies not with the concept, but with the execution and readiness of this particular proposal. Given the gaps in planning, lack of data, transparency, and uncertain implementation timeline, I believe our limited grant resources would be more impactful if allocated fully to the Maslow Project this year. I welcome Aura to apply at the following year when more funds might be available for them to fully realize the additional laundry shower trailer. Maslow Project is ready to go right now. I would also point to the Housing and Human Services Committee conversation where they decided to allocate the full amount requested by Maslow Project as opposed to dividing it up evenly or somewhat evenly between the two organizations, because even there was a recognition that this was not ready for prime time. So I think to be good stewards of our CDBG money, especially considering what is happening at the federal level and the increased scrutiny on these kind of programs, that we should be very careful with how we allocate this funding, and that's why I make the amendment that I did.
Councilor Dale?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I too absolutely appreciate the good work that Aura does. I just, in this particular case, need a day one fully executable plan. And I would like to see the maximum benefit go to have a direct effect on housing and our community's youth. So this is absolutely nothing against Aura or anything. I just see that as a work in progress, and I need to see our funds go specifically to housing, specifically to our youth in this case, and specifically as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Additional discussion. Councilor Kaplan?
Yes, I won't be supporting this amendment. I believe that the Housing and Human Services Committee did a thorough job in vetting these two proposals and coming up with an approach that I think is reasonable. I appreciate Councilor Bloom's intention to consolidate resources with the Maslow project. He did the same thing last year with the allocation, but I think that this is the Housing and Human Services Committee recommendation should stand, and I intend to support it.
Councilor Duquesne?
Thank you, Mayor. I would support the change and the amendment to this, and the reason why is, as a former member of Maslow Project, being on the board, they do excellent work. They are very hands on the ground, and I agree we need to be ready to hit the ground running now, and this is a very big need. I do support that. It's my understanding that the remainder of the funds is going to go towards 2200 Ashland Street, where we already talked about shower, storage, and laundry. And Aura does great work, and they already have that ability to do laundry now. Things are coming. So as I look at the state of the world on a federal level, I think that the money would be better spent going in that direction.
Councilor Hanson?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I appreciate the intention with the amendment. However, we are just got a demonstration from our executive director of Aura saying that he has pictures of this unit and it's coming cross country. And again, having experienced the refreshing experience from those using that facility on the north side of Ashland just a couple of years ago in my neighborhood, I'm just really excited to see that continue. And also, I'm interested in spreading the load, not burdening South Ashland with so many services. So I'm also excited to see services remain in North Ashland for our houseless community. So I won't be supporting the amendment, but I appreciate it. Oh, and let me add that coming from staff, I just really appreciate the staff's recommendation here, and I support staff's recommendation. Thanks.
Doug?
Yes, thank you. Councilor Duquesne mentioned that she would have been on the board of Maslow. Is that correct?
Formally, not now.
Okay. So even formally, it's still, I would like to help you out a little bit here if I could.
Conflict of interest?
Well, I just wanted to, City of Ashland just has its own rules about conflict of interest, and that is, although I understand it's not monetary issue.
Not monetary.
Yeah,
And it's-
but City of Ashland has its own requirement, which is, can you make this decision independently of your own personal relationship with Maslow and still have the city's interest at foremost as opposed to Maslow's? Is that a yes or a no? Yeah.
When I made the decision, I was looking at the opportunity that's going to happen at 2200 Street and not being redundant. I understand and appreciate what Councilor Hanson said, spreading the love throughout Ashland. I think that would be wonderful. However, I came from a place that not being redundant and being able to take the money and apply it to 2200 and let Maslow do what they can do immediately. So as a person, can I make the choice without bias?
That's based, yes, and with the city's interest in mind, not Maslow's interest in mind.
With the city's interest in mind, yes.
Okay, that's all you need to do. That. Thank you. That's, sorry, but I just,
No,
I
that's
don't,
okay.
since it is money and since you are allocating, I could see where that could become an issue, so.
No,
Very good.
I'm not on the
No.
board. I haven't been on the board.
Okay, no, that's right. Thank you.
Okay.
Councilor Kaplan?
Well, I guess since Councilor Duquesne, since the city attorney suggested that Councilor Duquesne disclose a past association with the Maslow project, I also had a past association with Aura. I was a volunteer there for a year, and then I was on the board for a short period of time until the end of 2022. So I've been off the board for over 2 years at this point. So I would like to affirm that I can make this decision without any bias at all.
And while there is, with the numbers, no chance that I'm going to have to vote on this, I do want to disclose that I did serve on ORA's advisory board for a while, a couple of years back. So is there any other discussion about the amendment? Okay, roll call please on the amendment.
Dale,
Yes.
Bloom,
Yes.
Kaplan,
No.
Duquesne,
Yes.
Hanson.
No.
Okay, so now we return to the main motion. Any further discussion on the main motion? And does anyone need it clarified? Now that it has been amended, the main motion has been amended by the vote that was just taken. No one needs it restated? Okay. Roll call, please, Alyssa.
Hanson,
Yes.
Duquesne,
I am voting on what we just voted on.
Essentially.
So the restated,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
the
yes. Just want to be clear.
the amended motion, yes.
Kaplan,
Yes.
Bloom,
Yes.
Dale,
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So we move on to the next item, the updated plan.
Yes.
And I just need to say the formal words here. We are now to the public hearing and decision on the 2025 to 2029 Consolidated Plan for Use of Community Development Block Grant Funds.
Thank you, Mayor. So, as many of you know, the city of Ashland is, I feel echoey.
Are we getting oh, it's the door, the feedback.
Okay. That's unusual. The city of Ashland is an entitlement jurisdiction for community development block grant funds. The city receives an annual allocation of funding from the Department of Housing and Urban Development to address community needs identified through the HUD-prescribed consolidated planning process. As a condition of receiving this funding, the city is required to maintain a 5-year consolidated plan which assesses and prioritizes the needs of the community as they relate to the provision of housing and the needs of low and moderate income households and special populations. The consolidated plan serves the following functions. It is a planning document for the jurisdiction, which builds on a participatory process among citizens, organizations, businesses, and other stakeholders. A submission for federal funds under HUD's Formula Grant Program for jurisdictions, a strategy to be followed in carrying out HUD programs, and a management tool for assessing performance and tracking results. HUD provides special tabulations of data to help cities identify areas of greatest need. The city also utilizes American Community Survey data, community and service provider input, and an evaluation of past performance to inform the development of this document. The resulting document outlines a strategic plan with specific numerical goals for ensuring for the ensuing 5-year period. The goals identified are intentionally broad to allow the city to be flexible to community needs as they arise and to be able to hold space for a broad range of potential activities. However, housing goals and goals that address issues relating to homelessness continue to be prioritized as high as those are identified as high priority needs through the needs assessment process. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. I realize this is a pretty big document with a lot of information in it. And when you're ready, staff would be looking to you to move approval of the 2025-2029 Consolidated Plan for the use of CDBG funding.
Thank you. Questions? Councilor Hanson.
Thank you, Mayor. It is a big document, 127 pages. I mean, like many plans, a lot of it's redundant. But I was curious when I started reading, why aren't we using these funds to build affordable housing? So I was hoping that you could, in a nutshell, help our community understand why our plans going the direction that we go.
Mm-hmm. So we get a pretty limited amount of CDBG funding, especially relative to other communities. It does not lend itself well to large-scale construction projects. On top of that, CDBG funding is very limited in its uses regulatorily. So, and it has a lot of hurdles, especially for development. CDBG cannot be used for construction costs except in certain circumstances, very limited circumstances and limited organizations. So primarily what people use the funding for is for acquisition or rehab of housing. And the acquisition would be acquisition of existing housing, or it could be acquisition of land on which to build housing. If there isn't any housing present, then you have to do an environmental review, which is a full NEPA process, and could be time-consuming and adds upfront costs. So it's a bit of a hurdle, and you can't commit the funding, and the purchaser cannot commit to purchasing the land until that process is complete. So that's my nutshell. It could be a much bigger nutshell, but I'm trying to be brief.
That's helpful. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Any further questions of staff? Okay, I open the public hearing. Alyssa, has anyone signed up to talk to us on this issue? Okay, I close the public hearing, and if there are no further questions for staff, the floor is open for a motion. Councilor Bloom.
Thank you. I move to approve the 2025-2029 Consolidated Plan for the use of Community Development Block Grant funds as presented, including the minor revisions recommended by the Housing and Human Services Advisory Committee.
Councilor Bloom.
Yeah, it was long, but it was interesting and not a bad read, I would say. No, I appreciate this. Obviously, we need to be in federal compliance. There's that element of it, but I think it's nice to have a document to kind of be a guiding light for both the Housing and Human Services Committee as well as ourselves. And I think it really provides us a lot of flexibility and insight into what we can do with that funding. I appreciate the workload that went into developing that, but I believe you did the last one, right? Did you do the one before that? So you've had some practice with this. Well, anyways, I really appreciate it, Linda, and yeah, go forth. Thank you.
Councilor Kaplan.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. It's incredible that 5 years has gone by already. It seems like just yesterday you prepared the previous one. I remember when the Housing and Human Services Committee was discussing the previous consolidated plan. So just again want to shout out to you, Linda, and also to the Housing and Human Services Committee for doing the work to put this together in these uncertain times. You know, we put these plans together. The situation at the Department of Housing and Urban Development is none too certain. But in order to continue to have access to potential resources, and as we've seen, there are diminishing resources over time. This is the kind of thing that we do need to do. So thank you for putting your effort into it and striking the right balance. Thank you.
Further discussion.
Mayor, could I get clarification on who the second was?
Councilor Kaplan.
Councilor Kaplan. And moving forward, if we could have that second be loud and
Louder.
clear, that would be great for the record. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Further discussion. Okay. Roll call, please, Alyssa.
Kaplan,
Yes.
Duquesne,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Bloom,
Yes.
Dale.
Yes.
Thank you. We are now to the second reading of Ordinance 3259, an ordinance annexing property and withdrawing an annexed area from Jackson County Fire District Number 5, 300 Clay Street, and adoption of findings and conclusions of law for planning action number PA-T3 2024-00010.
Thank you, Mayor Graham. Council, Brandon Goldman, Community Development Director. So this project, as the mayor noted, is for annexation of a 4.8-acre parcel at 300 Clay Street and withdrawing that property from the Jackson County Fire District Number 5 upon its inclusion into the city of Ashland. Council reviewed this proposal, both the annexation and the outline plan, on April 1st and directed staff to approve the 29-lot subdivision, 37 total dwelling units, including 21 single-family homes and 16 apartments within fourplex buildings. The council approved at that hearing an exception to Chapter 18.5.1050 G3 the requirements for annexation, allowing the 8 required affordable housing units to be 2-bedroom units rather than requiring a bedroom mix commensurate with the market rate units. And this exception was justified by the early phasing of the affordable units, which are to be completed first, meeting the alternative phasing approval criteria. So presented before you is the ordinance for the annexation, which is unchanged from what you saw at first reading. Additionally, in your packet were the findings reflecting the approval of the annexation and outline plan approval relating to Planning Action T3-2024-00010. The findings presented accept the Planning Commission recommendation conditions of approval from their hearing on March 11th, 2025, except as modified by the City Council to approve the exception as requested. And with that, unless there's any questions, that's my presentation.
Questions for staff? Alyssa, has anyone signed up to speak to us on this agenda item? Thank you. Okay, the floor is open then for a motion. Councilor Kaplan?
I'll do this one. Let's see. I move to approve second reading of ordinance number 3259, an ordinance annexing property and withdrawing an annexed area from the Jackson County Fire District number 5, and approving findings for planning action number PA-T3-2024-00010.
Second. Strongly stated.
Councilor Kaplan?
Thank you, Brandon. We had a good discussion of this at the last meeting, so you answered all the questions at that point. Happy to support this.
Councilor Dale?
Same as Councilor Kaplan. I appreciate all the good work that we talked about this 2 weeks ago, so this makes this easy. Thank you.
Further discussion? Councilor Hansen?
37 new units in Ashland. Woohoo! Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Councilor Duquesne?
Thank you, Mayor. 37 and 8 are workforce housing. Yay, and broadening our tax base. I'll take it. Thank you.
Roll call, please, Alyssa.
Kaplan?
Yes.
Bloom?
Yes.
Dale?
Yes.
Duquesne?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Brandon. We are now to resolutions related to public safety, wildfire, and parks fees.
All right, good evening. We are back with resolutions related to fees that we discussed at the March 31st study session. So we have a quick PowerPoint. Director Barry will be up to help me with that in a minute. But just as a reminder, we are discussing the public safety fee, the wildfire fee, and a proposed parks fee this evening. So we'll run through a quick recap of those fees, what they will fund, and then happy to answer any questions there. Thank you, Marianne.
And Marianne, do you prefer that council ask questions as you go?
That's fine. Yes, you can ask questions as you go. All right, so we'll go ahead and bypass that one as well. So as an overview of our budget process, a large part of that is reviewing and reconciling our past biennium to see funds that we have to move forward. Our budget direction this year has been no increase around budgets because we are estimating our revenues and expenditures to not align and have already implemented a 5% across the board cut for all departments. And we have been assessing our program priorities and service levels accordingly. And we have been reviewing positions, workflows, and moving people around where they are most needed. Part of the revenue that the general fund seeks, and our focus is on the general fund tonight, is through fees. Traditionally, we've had a public safety fee of $1.50, a wildfire fee that is currently at $3 per the typical residential water meter, and then we currently have no parks fee. Next slide, please. Doing an overview of the jurisdictions around us. Public safety is a fairly typical fee in the area. Wildfire fee is unique to us as we are unique in that we reside a large part within the forestry. We have a large watershed that abuts right up to the city. And typically, the jurisdictions have a parks fee. We are unique in that we do not have that. So we've compared ourselves to neighboring cities to see where we lie. We also are very heavy in our parks acreages, our number of parks, and our trails, which is just something to note. Next slide, please. So our main general fund revenues that we can expect are, our main one is property tax. That is capped at 3%. We do receive franchise fees from utilities. This has been impacted over time with no rate increases for several utilities within the cities. And then we also have the electric user tax, which can be better thought of as general services fee. And that has increased only marginally in the last 5 years. That fee does go to fund the general fund and general services out of that. So our revenue expectations for TLT.
Hold on, Councilor Dale.
Thank you. Could you just go back one slide? I just wanted to see. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilor Kaplan.
Yeah, thanks. On these three sources, so your estimate of 1 to 3% from the cumulative of these three sources, property taxes, franchise fees, and electric user tax, even though we are expecting a increase in water rates and electric rates, that should increase the franchise fees. Franchise fees actually for Vista Gas have also gone up slowly, but they've been going up. I mean, they don't count very much. So I'm curious why looking in the rearview mirror on these franchise fees and electric user tax is a good indication for what's going to happen over the next biennium. Seems like those fees would all go up.
Yeah. So it's the expectation for revenues in general, and then we were just highlighting these particular items that were in the general fund. It is true that the water rates are going up. It would increase the franchise fees. One thing that is definitive is we cannot expect the level of grants that we received into the general fund as compared to the previous biennium. So that's also reflecting the general expectation of revenues being around 3%.
Great.
Go ahead.
Follow-up. So I guess I guess I didn't quite understand. It seems to me that the franchise fees would go up by the same percentage as the rates on water, electricity, wastewater, AFN, et cetera. Electric user tax, the same thing. I'm curious what the percentage increase. We're contemplating an increase of the water rates of 13%, which was a recommendation by the rate consultant. Why wouldn't the franchise fees on the water also go up by that same percent?
So I don't have that information right in front of me. I can get the exact increase for those franchise fees. It's on net sales, so I don't know if it is a direct correlation to the 13%. That being said, what I'm describing is that the general expectation for revenues for the general fund is around 3%. Even with those increases, we have lost the ability to have large admin grants that we received from the previous biennium and the biennium before that due to the pandemic. So it's essentially so when we're looking at total general fund revenues, the average is 3% in total from biennium to biennium. We're looking at not just these particular three components of general fund revenues.
Okay, so you're saying that your projections are there's a 1 to 3% expected growth in revenues for the general fund.
Correct.
That you're giving us some color from property taxes,
Yes.
franchise fees, and electric
Yes.
user tax, but it sounds like the bigger impact is not having grants, that are going to be.
Yeah, as well as other items. our general fund has many line items of revenues, including parks fees and other types of fees that we were keeping stable or minimizing or reducing from the last biennium. So there is an ebb and flow that resulted in what we're expecting, or what we have expected. We built the budget around an expectation of 3%.
Sure. There are other sources of revenue, but the majority, these three sources are by far the largest. And we're talking, you're talking about for the biennium here, but these are annual amounts, 13.5 on property, 4 million on franchise, and 3.6 on electric user tax. So that's well over half, the revenues for the general fund. No?
So general fund revenues are
For administrative,
actuals.
for operational costs.
Well, I would have to do the math, but
Yeah.
total revenues for fiscal '24 was 40 million. So that 40 million has to cover all of the general fund departments.
Including capital.
Including capital, yeah, in the general fund. And we also have a capital improvement fund as well. So generally what we're saying is that from last biennium, an increase of approximately 3% overall, not just these items, but these items in particular, the larger ones have been impacted by its limitations, like property taxes due to the measure 5 and 50, and franchise fees due to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councilor Dale?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, Marianne, thank you. I kind of want to follow up on what kind of work through this, like Councilor Kaplan said. I was confused too, because if it's 1 to 3% for the biennium, but it's 3% per annum for the property taxes, that is kind of a little bit weird there. Franchise fees, I agree that those are directly correlated to rates. I mean, it's just a flat line. But I'm interested in the electric user tax, because it says, on average, it's only increased less than 1% in the last 5 years. The only reason, given the fact that we haven't increased, we haven't increased the electric rates here, that 1% would be expected outside of things like growth or conservation or so forth. But if you can go back one slide specifically to the electric user tax here. So relative to local, like how we budget, is there a difference between a tax and a fee as it relates to a user or a ratepayer? And the reason I'm asking is because both of those on your slide, on the subsequent slide, all of those dump into the general fund, correct? All of those. Those three go into the general fund.
That's correct.
Correct. So then why would we not add the electric users tax under the fee column here to make it kind of an apples to apples? Because that would go into the general fund as well.
Yes, I would.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so our major pressures on the general fund are personnel and our service level expectations. So personnel are our most valuable asset. We need them to provide service. They are our most expensive asset at the city, and we are seeing increasing personnel costs when it comes to cost of living and more significantly the cost of healthcare. We've also had an increase in demand of service for ambulance calls, maintenance needs, and a lot of issues around vandalism and et cetera that we have had to deal with this biennium, which has cost the city almost more than $500,000 that was unexpected or unbudgeted for. Next slide, please. This is just an overview of what is in our general fund. So you see public safety, such as police and fire. We have elements of public works, such as fleet and facilities, our community development department, parks and recreation, administration, court, IT, and finance. So the general fund covers quite a few departments here at the city. So for both police and fire, personnel costs have been on the rise. Our public safety and wildfire fee have not increased since 2018 and 2019, respectively. And while the ambulance revenue covers single role EMS and addresses drop calls, there is an increase of 8 FTE or $1.5 million per year. And over time, or what's happening is traditionally the ambulance service has covered the fire department, covered some of the firefighters, but because we have so many personnel now and the equipment that goes with them, they're covering less of the fire personnel. We are also closely monitoring the situation around Medicaid, and where we are going to see our ambulance revenue come in the future. It has not come in as high as we had thought, so we are monitoring that closely.
Sabrina?
Yes.
Councilor Bloom has a question?
Yeah, I was just curious, kind of a process question before we move on. I'm just wondering, for the sake of clarity, that we divide up this conversation around these fees individually. I'm just imagining a scenario where one person's asking a question related to a parks fee, another jumps in over to police, then fire, and it's all getting kind of jumbled. And I think for the sake of not only us, but obviously the audience at home and here today, that we kind of divide these up into 3 different sections, so that way kind of everybody's on the same page for the discussion.
You're messing with my slideshow, but
My
we can do
apology.
that.
I thought it was the same as last time.
Is there interest in that from the council? We certainly are going to take this up as 2 separate resolutions because they are 2 separate resolutions. But if we're going to make a change in the presentation, I think it would be a desire of the entire council. Is there a desire to change the structure of the presentation? No? Okay, then go ahead and carry on. But to your point, Councilor Bloom, I think we are certainly going to take these up as 2 distinct or potentially 3 distinct conversations.
So parks, same operational cost issues. Operation costs have increased. We do have a prohibition on herbicides within the city, which has an increased need for staffing to do the weed mitigation and fire prevention work. And the food and beverage tax is restricted in that it can go right now, as the ballot language was read that was passed, to capital improvement. Next slide, please.
Councilor Duquesne?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Quick question. When we look at the food and beverage tax, the other slide, the money goes for parks, that 23% goes to capital and not operations?
Correct. So the ballot language was written to have a capital fund for Parks and Recreation. So ongoing operations is a different bucket of money than food and beverage.
And where does the operation funds come from for parks?
General fund.
For the general fund, and not the food and beverage does not go?
No, food and beverage is used to maintain facilities, build new parks, et cetera.
Okay.
Councilor Dale?
Thank you. Just real quick on the prohibition of herbicides, I'm just curious, where, relative to the policy for that, does that fall under the authority of the Parks Commission? Or, I know it would be, ordinance and so forth, but.
Correct. My understanding, that's a policy of the Parks Commission. That we do allow it on our medians, but in terms of in the parks, there is a moratorium on it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for confirming that.
Councilor Kaplan?
Yeah, Sabrina, could you just go a little bit more into the restriction on using food and beverage tax for only capital improvement? I've had a question from a resident saying, didn't we just vote on that last year? Or what happened? There was an election that actually put this issue to the voters to use food and beverage tax for parks operations. What happened there?
Yes, thanks, Councilor. So that ballot measure failed. So the ballot language is still as originally approved when it passed the last time, which is to go towards parks capital. So the last ballot measure did request to use food and beverage for parks operations as well as capital, and that was not approved by the voters.
Thank you.
Councilor Bloom?
Yeah, thank you. Since we're talking about F&B, my understanding, the language actually states that it includes the wording maintenance in there as well. And maintenance is a function of operations. So we could actually use a portion of that food and beverage money for operations because there is a maintenance component. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you. And we actually do that. So we do a transfer from food and beverage into the Parks Department for that purpose around maintenance, typically around already built facilities. So
Great.
elements.
What's the amount?
I believe it's 420,000.
2,000, yep.
So about half.
422,000.
No,
Because it's about 800, correct? Per
2 million.
No, for the 25%. I mean,
Oh,
23%.
Yeah, it's about half.
so it's about half of the
half of the
25% of food and beverage tax is being used for maintenance in parks
Yes,
operations.
it's specifically defined during the budget process based on, what the parks projects that are already approved by APRC.
So follow up to that. So we could then technically decide to use the full 25% for maintenance purposes towards parks, correct?
I can't speak for parks, but it would really dictate what their plan is for CIP, because some of those, the overflow into the operations funds are the maintenance of certain things that are attached to their CIP projects.
Sure, but in terms of procedure, ultimately, it's the CBC and council that can decide whether that
That's
CIP gets funded to a certain level, and we could decide that we wanted to allocate that funding to parks operation.
Well, it would have to go towards maintenance.
For maintenance,
So
right,
I
within
think it's important to
operation.
keep in mind that the biggest expense around operating is actual
operating.
operations,
Yeah.
not
Right.
maintenance.
That's certainly not lost on me, but when we're talking about the grander picture here, which we will be getting into much more deeply later on this evening, we are talking about how do we properly fund parks operations and identifying where funding could be coming from. We have options on the table that were not being presented to us, and I look forward to that discussion later tonight.
Councilor Dale?
thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just to kind of follow up on what Councilor Boone was saying, because I was kind of, and Councilor Kaplan as well. When Ordinance 3133 passed back in 2016, it tweaked the language, and it actually deleted the words, "will shall be put into a parks account for the purposes of capital improvement projects." So while I completely agree that the Parks Commission has authority over the policy and so forth and how that money is allocated, absolutely, that's in their wheelhouse. I just want to make sure that we're clear on what they can use. Because, I mean, it's always seemed to me, and it was on the slide there, that it goes into a park CIP. If Parks so chooses to put that into a CIP thing based on their policy, hey, great, but it doesn't, but they're not restricted to that based on this new language when that new ordinance was passed. And even the ballot language back in 2016 made no mention of any kind of capital improvement plan account. So I just wanted to make sure that we're okay. And I understand maintenance,
Sure.
and so forth, and operation and so forth. But I just want to make sure that would you agree that it's not completely locked into a separate CIP fund that is only restricted for capital? Parks can restrict it, but the city doesn't restrict it for them.
How you worded that is, I would agree with that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I think just another note that there is that tie between the Parks Commission and council, and that any sort of large land acquisition, for example, is approved by council. So just as, CIP, et cetera, ultimately comes to council and the CBC. So there is that tie between the two bodies, you're correct.
Follow up to that, Mayor, please.
Yes.
And just to that point, just to kind of close the loop on that, again, that's a parks policy decision. If there's a property that they want to acquire, the question is, they can decide if they want to allocate that. Eventually, like you said, it comes to us for approval to actually, we'll say, sign the title document, so to speak, and final authority. But they may or may not have the money. They may or may not. It doesn't really matter. That's their decision.
Sure.
And they don't have to use it for acquisition or CIP. They just can. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Councilor Hanson?
Thank you. Yeah, I was hoping to just pull on this thread a little bit further and ask Director Houston to pop over here. And I'd like to define what maintenance is, because I'm curious, is maintenance mowing a lawn, or is maintenance building something that's been vandalized? Is maintenance, tell us what maintenance is relative to this law, and Councilor Dale's info that he just dropped.
Thank you. For the record, Rocky Houston, Ashland Parks and Recreation Director. In our CIP and in our how we categorize our maintenance is several different categories. So there's routine maintenance. So that's cleaning restrooms, mowing grass, doing the routine stuff to keep things operational. Then there's preventative maintenance, which is where those $422,000 are transferred over is paying for partially, that's extending the useful life of an existing asset. So we have a broken mirror. We have a sprinkler head that's broken and needs to be replaced. Those sort of capital repairs is defined in the food and beverage tax. So those elements. We then have major maintenance, which is replacement of an existing asset significantly. A lot of times bathroom A goes away, bathroom B comes back, and we have a brand new asset. And that's where the food and beverage tax and the CIP goes to doing that. So those are the types of maintenance that we do.
Okay. Thank you for just jumping in over here. Appreciate it.
Councilor Dale.
Thank you, Mayor. Rocky, thank you for that. So just add a question, just quick question on the maintenance thing that Councilor Hansen brought up. So Sabrina informed us last night that the robots are not in fact here yet. So when it comes to the maintenance of the restrooms, the mowing the lawns, that's a person that's doing that. So does personnel fall into maintenance?
The personnel can fall into any of those categories if we're doing the work. So if they're doing routine maintenance, then that's our general fund allocation. If they're doing preventative maintenance and we've got object codes that we're charging to for time, materials, and or contracts, then those would be eligible for the food and beverage transfer.
And just while we're on definitions, what's the definition of development within the ordinance there?
Sure. Development we call enhancements. So we're adding new things to an existing park. So a new playground, a new slide, a new tree, potentially. Or we're developing a whole new park like East Main. So we're enhancing, we're creating an additional recreational amenity for the community.
How about in services? Is it development of services?
Development typically is defined for our capital program. On our recreational programming and services side, that is in our recreation budget, and it would be a general fund cost.
Councilor Bloom.
Yeah, thank you. I have two questions. One's for you, Director, and the other is for legal. Do we flip a coin? I'll just start with you, Director. What is your total maintenance budget, number-wise?
So our operations budget for this biennium is $14.4 million.
Sure. I mean specifically maintenance. How much money do you expend over a biennium, or are you expecting to spend over the next biennium? That number I'm curious about as it ties into this conversation around maintenance and food and beverage.
So we don't have a task management level of budgeting to where I can give you that definite. I have staff who are doing operational and maintenance. It's one bucket from our budgeting process.
Would finance be able to produce that number so that it help inform these conversations, whether it's tonight, obviously you can't produce it tonight, but going forward, so that when we are talking about broadly how we can properly and have sustained funding for parks, we can know what those numbers are so that we can come up with real solutions.
We can, may I, Director? We can certainly bring to Council and the CBC the detail around the $422,000 that made up the transfer to cover the maintenance for parks that they identified in the last biennium. And that would show, as an example, what the food and beverage would cover around maintenance.
Great, thank you. And then if I could ask my question to legal.
Sure.
Doug, is there anything in ORS that defines any of these terms in terms of development, what maintenance is? Where are the definitions, or is this just us deciding this is how we want to interpret it?
There are definitions in the procurement codes for state of Oregon, and we had them also, well, they're exempt. We don't address them in our own codes, but the state of Oregon does have for public works and for public improvements, they are definitions, and they are defined by case law as well. So far, what I've heard is all in line with what I would consider close to what you're talking about. There is no definitions in the budget world of law that says what's a development or what is. Now, if you're talking about fees or you're talking about tax, there's going to be definitely a description and definition of those. But as far as how our ordinance is written, operations and capital improvements, you would just use an analogous procurement code.
Sure.
And we're close.
I'm just curious to Councilor Dale's point about development. I mean, would development of programming,
Well,
could that be used
yeah.
under that definition?
So development or capital improvements would be, in my mind, and what I would be looking at would be how it's interpreted as a public improvement. And again, it's definitional, and you would have to get into kind of how that's described. But if you're actually improving something, if you're making a public improvement, and they do distinguish that from maintenance and from painting, there's a whole number of different things, but yes.
Sure. I thank you for that. And it's interesting to tease out. And I mean, I think that there's a case to be made that the programs that serve the community is development and does improve, public good. So thank you for that.
Councilor Hanson?
Thank you. Rocky, while you're here, is building a trail a capital improvement project?
Yes, and I think the definition is what is a capital project, which there is a definition of what a capital item is versus a capital or public works project. So in a program, pool, we have a pool that we build and a building that we have showers and all that. Those capital improvements would be deemed development or a capital project per state code and our rules. The staffing that manages that program, the customer service experience, the things that promote it, all those things aren't capital development projects. Those are programming that does improve the livability and experience of the community. I agree 100% with you, but there is not a capital asset at the end of the day. Those people go home, that asset's not sitting there, and we can't say, yep, there is that staff.
So thanks. So we can build trails out of the CIP F&B fund. Can we maintain trails out of?
We would have to do preventive maintenance or major maintenance. So routine maintenance of doing a little bit of trail work, log outs, that stuff would be operational or maintenance costs that would be out of general fund.
But building new berms and doing more heavy lifting, that's
that would potentially be eligible. It's every element is case by case based off is an existing asset. What is that level of work that's being required?
Great, thank you.
Councilor Duquesne.
Thank you, Mayor. Marion, I had a quick question. Councilor Bloom brought up the maintenance and getting that divided out so that we could see how much that cost is. Do you know when we'll have those numbers?
When I get back to the office tomorrow.
Thank you.
So just to make sure that I understand this, when we've been talking about the food and beverage tax over all these many years, it's my understanding that we are talking about capital projects, which I think are pretty easily defined, and the major renovation type projects, the major, not necessarily maintenance, but the remodels, the capital, you're improving a capital asset. Inside our structure for how we track our people and then what they spend time on, it seems to me that we might track between those two things. Are you working on a capital project that maybe has been debt financed, that sort of thing? We would need to know what kind of hours we put on there. But that we wouldn't, in fact, have our staff people go to the granular level of saying, this thing, this piece that you're doing, maybe you're, repainting a wall or that sort of thing, that is maintenance and not operations, right? We would say all of that is that sort of lower level maintenance, which is part of operations. And so we don't have a way to distinguish that because we don't ask our staff to track their time to that level of granularity. Is that correct?
That is a correct statement.
Okay, so just so that we have a sense of what we will be getting with these additional figures, we are not going to be able to get to that level of granularity.
We'll have some object codes that'd be as granular as it would be, and it still may not get to some of the level that may be wanted.
Well, and since the food and beverage tax can't be used on those minor maintenance elements, there would be no reason to track it separately, is the way I understand it. That only becomes important, and that's where you get into this gray area of what is major enough to move it into the capital side and take it out of the operations side. Is that correct?
Yeah, in the next biennium, what we're working to do is create a project number for that preventative maintenance and those projects that we are going to be charging to food and beverage, so that there is a distinction of a project, so we can make it very distinct that you were charging our time to this repair, this element that is being reimbursed, so we can track it better than we are currently.
And that particular project has crossed a threshold that makes it eligible to get funding from the food and beverage tax. Yes.
Right, and in our preventive maintenance process, we've got allocations for categories, whether it's hazard trees, facilities, pavement preservation, those sort of categories, and we'd be creating sub-projects out of that. So there would be some conscious engagement as this meets that threshold, and then we have that additional engagement and data collection from our staff.
Thank you. Councilor Dale?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And I agree and am following exactly what the mayor is saying. I guess I'm still confused, though, based on what you just said a little bit ago. That sounds like a self-imposed restriction between that, because as far as there is nothing in the code or the ordinance or the language that basically says it has to be major. It's just something that you decided as policy, and that's fine. It's not a problem what you guys decide what it is or not. But I just want to make sure that there's a difference between what your policy says and what's restricted above and outside of your policy. That's what I'm trying to drill down on. I mean, it's your policy. I just want to make sure that you're not self-imposing a policy that the code doesn't require you to impose.
And my concern is ensuring that when we go back out for the food and beverage tax reauthorization, that we have those records to show that this is the letter of what is supposed to be spent on, and we can, since next biennium forward, we can have that clarity of this is what we spent on and why. So there is that granular. Right now, if I have an operations staff go do work, they charge it to the operation and program budget. They could be doing several different things. We don't have that granularity that is referencing. And so my intent is to try to be as transparent as we do move forward to hopefully ensure that the resources we have today, we will have tomorrow with support of the community.
And that's fair and very much appreciated. Just, okay.
Councilor Kaplan?
Yeah, thanks, Rocky. Just following up on that a little bit. Is this something that our annual auditor would spot check to make sure that we're not using a source of funds, food and beverage tax, that's for capital and this sort of maintenance for things that aren't kosher?
I will defer to our finance director.
They may. I mean, they have during their audit before the financial audit, they do single audits to test for that type of stuff, and they may find that. However, just getting back to the core of what I hear is this conversation is whether or not what is the definition of maintenance, right? And whether or not the F&B tax can cover that per our AMC, and what that interpretation of maintenance is in the AMC. I don't have the AMC in front of me, but my recollection of reading it a few times is that it definitely refers to it as a capital improvement, which is why it goes direct. 25% goes to the CIP, and then it further goes to state that that also includes repairs, which, from my interpretation as an accountant for capital improvements, it would be repairs on those projects that are identified as needing additional life extension, right? So when we provide that detail to you, I think it'll really be, it'll clarify that they really are attached to capital projects.
Thank you.
The repairs of capital projects.
So I have a question that kind of kind of gets back up to sort of a more umbrella space. I have the code in front of me here, and it says that 25% of the food and beverage tax will go to acquisition, planning, development, repair, and rehabilitation of city parks. And this is the whole question, well, what all does that include? But I think the question that I'm interested in is, when staff comes to the Budget Committee with a proposed budget, will that proposed budget include the full 25% of total funding that parks could use? I would imagine that it would, that we wouldn't be holding any amount back. We'll estimate the food and beverage tax. We'll say 25% of it can go to these things for parks. Is the budget planning process, does it involve holding any of that funding back?
No.
No, it would fully allocate the 25% for parks across these 5 elements of acquisition, planning, development, repair, and rehabilitation. And the reason I ask this is because we're having a very deep dive conversation about how do we identify what these different elements are. But at the end of the day, there is no new money. If we were to decide that we had a broader definition of maintenance, that doesn't bring us more money. It means that within that 25%, we may say, okay, we'll use more on maintenance and less on capital. But at that point, the question would have to go back to parks that says, which CIP elements do you not want to do?
That's right.
Is that correct? Do I understand that correctly?
Yes.
So we would expect that full 25% to be allocated in
Correct.
the budget.
Yes.
And currently, our 6.5 roughly million CIP budget is primarily attributed to the East Main project. The match for that, it's a $2.5 million project, I believe, off the top of my head. We only have $1 million in grants, so there's $1.5 million that will come from food and beverage, or a small percentage from system development charges. The Hunter Park Tennis Court rehabilitation, $720,000 grant for a $1.3 million project. Again, that's food and beverage. So a lot of those funds, more than we are getting in over the next biennium, are already being allocated for those 2 specific projects.
Thank you. Councilor Bloom?
Yeah, thank you. Just a point of clarification to that point about CIP and ultimately going back to parks. I asked city manager this question exactly, and the answer I got in response was that actually the CBC or the city council could line item remove items from park CIP, which would then decrease the amount of money that they are requesting in there. So unless something changed from your communication to me, that was my understanding.
That wasn't the question I asked, though.
No, but you were talking about broadly, we're being presented in budgets. This is the 25% that they get for capital improvement, and that then gets divided up into those various things, one of them being the capital improvement. However, the point that I'm making is that if the CIP total budget was smaller, then the amount of money collected from the 25% of F&B is that you don't need that full amount. So you're using 400,000 right now. I guess the point that I'm making is that there's another about 400,000 that could be available if it was identified that there is a gap in maintenance needs, and whatever that number is, which is why I'm asking to have that number, to say, well, if they only need $400,000 in maintenance, then it makes sense you're only using $400,000. But if you have $600,000 in maintenance needs and you're only using $400,000, why are we not using that other $200,000 to fill that?
So just a point of reference, because I'm getting confused, honestly, with the word maintenance. So food and beverage can be used for preventative maintenance and capital projects, which is major maintenance and development. So there's a lot of routine maintenance that, when you say maintenance, that's what I think about, which is not eligible through the food and beverage tax. So I just want, when you're saying maintenance, are you meaning preventative maintenance?
I'm referring to the preventative maintenance and repair that is stated in the AMC specifically. That's the number that I'm curious for, because again, this whole conversation is about where are the different buckets of money and how can we fill the overall bucket that is parks using a variety of different methods.
Yeah, I think just at some point, there's only so much deferred maintenance we can do with the staff. We need them to do the routine maintenance to keep the fields mowed, to do the weed mitigation, to run the programs. And so we maximize the amount we can from food and beverage to do the deferred maintenance that we can reasonably do within the time frame, and the rest is for capital, because that is the interpretation that we've gotten of that ordinance. And I think, last time it was voted down, it was very clear the public didn't want it to go towards operations. And so, we've been cognizant to try to recognize that and stay within the lane that we have been told to stay. And like I said, there's only so much capacity we can do with the deferred maintenance around the capital assets when the majority and bulk of the work that our parks op staff is doing is not related to those things.
Councilor Hansen?
Thank you. East Main Park is in one of the capital improvement projects that the Parks Commission and APRC has identified. We don't have enough money to do all of East Main Park. So there is no leftover money in the CIP for other uses, even if we could rewrite our definitions. That's just what I've learned from APRC and attending their meetings. It's a phased project, so we're not going to be able to do the whole thing that we want to do. So even if we could redefine and rework that within the existing ballot measure that's been under practice, there is no extra money in that bucket, and as the mayor said, there's no new money in that bucket.
All right, so let's go. Let's move
go
on.
to slide 10 of my 55-point slideshow. No, I'm just kidding. We could move on. Thank you. So coming back to public safety. So what was proposed last time is a $5 public safety fee in total. This would increase funds for our AMS single role program to allow that to move forward at the 8 single roles, which is what we have now. Happy to answer any questions about that. So the resolution we have brought back is the one as directed by council at the study session.
So Sabrina, we had a resident come in to the study session and ask questions about the net position for the single role, and I'm wondering if we can answer those. Do you have that set of questions, Marianne? Are you familiar with the question that was asked? I can read it.
I recall the question that was asked today, which I had answered by email to him late in the day, but. If you want to go ahead and
orient
read it.
you,
go
yeah,
ahead.
sure. So the question is, the statement was that so far in 2024, the EMS single role program shows an increase in net position of 1.6 million, with estimates that the final net revenue will be in the range of 2.8 to 3.3 million. And so I think that what the question is if we're ending, if that program is ending with a strong net position at the end of this budgetary cycle, I guess that's the first one. Do we think that, is that accurate to assume that there is a strong net position of that program, given that I know we calculate in terms of the whole general fund?
Yes.
Right. So
I think that's key, that those revenues go into the pool that get absorbed and spent out by the rest of the fire department and the rest of the general fund, right? I will also say that, I will point out that slide in particular that was included was based on actuals of personnel costs at that particular year. The EMS roles were not all hired at once, and so those costs they don't depict the full amount of what it would be to run a 4 or 8 EMS role program. So you can look at it that way. However, it's not the full picture. And then the other thing that I will also mention is the cost of the EMS role program is new to the biennium. We had those revenues previously. They were being generated by the dual roles. It is why we had the dropped call volume so high, and we, by council priority, hired the 4 and then the other 4. And so this is a new expense. And so going into the next biennium, the full expense is approximately 1.4, 1.5 million in total with fully loaded personnel for 8 single roles. And I just wanted to make that distinction.
And that takes into account the position of that program and the revenues associated with it at the end of this biennial budget. So we're thinking about that as we project out how much additional expenses we're likely to see from that program and the planned development of that program in the next 2 years.
That's right. And the revenues for that, are still what they were in the previous biennium generally,
Okay, great, thank you. Any questions in terms of the public safety element?
Next slide, please. Per council direction, the resolution also comes back with a dedicated fee. We're changing the Ashland Forest Resiliency name to a wildfire, it dropped out of my brain, protection fee, but something that is more easily identifiable at the $7 level. And with that, I would maybe recommend moving forward with discussing that resolution that has the public safety and the wildfire fee, and then we can come back to parks.
So in terms of your presentation, we're nearing the end of it, and we would only have the conversation about the parks is a similar structure to this, and we can take it up after we discuss this resolution. Okay, so we are at the point where we are going to talk about the first resolution, which includes a combination of wildfire and public safety. Yes, Alyssa?
I'm sorry. A lot of folks have signed up to speak without clarification on whether they want to talk about the parks fee specifically or the other fees. I don't know when you would like to bring them up, but I wanted to let you know that.
So let's go ahead and bring them up, bring me the paperwork. And when we get to that point in the evening where people are coming up to talk, if you have come specifically for the parks element, you can just let me know that at the time, and I'll sort the list when we get there. Okay, great. So in terms of the resolution that includes the fee for wildfire and public safety, are there any additional questions of staff? Councilor Bloom.
Yes, thank you. So for this resolution, one of I guess an issue that I have with it is that it's all in one single resolution. I'm curious if you could shed some light on that. A couple of reasons. One, for clarity's sake, for the public to understand that these are 2 separate fees. Also, it makes it easier in future councils to go in and amend or change or remove that resolution without cutting another component of it. And then I think also important to point out is that the public safety fee is per utility account, but the fee is different for the wildfire because it has to do with the meter size. And so I'm just wondering and curious everybody else's thoughts, like, doesn't it make sense to maybe just separate those? What would the process be to make that easy? Should I go through and amend that? Hopefully not. Hopefully we can just do this an easier way.
Clear as to the issue for you, so I can't opine.
I'm suggesting that there be 2 separate ordinances, or resolutions. One resolution for the public safety fee, and then a separate resolution for the wildfire fee.
Okay, so just break this one up. Yeah, well, yes, we can, and then essentially, we'd have to rewrite the resolution, obviously.
Right.
And it can be done.
Is that the easiest way, is to just give staff direction?
Well, it sounds as though if you want to make a distinction between the public safety support fee and the wildfire risk fee, then yes, then you easiest way to do it, as opposed to having it together.
Yeah, or amending it line by line, which would take forever. Yeah.
Don't.
Yeah. Okay.
So just I have a follow-up question for our attorney. So Doug, if the council were to decide to split this, we would not be able to move it forward for approval this evening, is that correct?
Well, there's, yeah, you would have to have it in writing. I think you wouldn't be able to make that distinction and keep all the items in mind. And then we'd have to rewrite the resolution, have to come back and get it approved by you again to make sure that you like the writing of it. So I think, yes, we would have to come back. Yes, we would have to
And in
come
terms of a timing question for Sabrina, we will be, you need this answer so that you can put the budget together that we'll be seeing in the next couple of weeks. Is that correct?
Yeah, the budget will be built out of the assumptions of these fees because that influences the revenue, which influences the positions. So
we need an answer tonight,
Well,
it
but
seems.
You can, I think you can still vote on the resolution. We would have to come back with the two, you would have to prove, it would be like a first read. I mean, you would end up saying, this is what I want.
and then we would bring back an
Then we would
amended.
bring back the amended documents. But you could say, this is what we want, and we're passing this as a resolution. That would give administration what I think you would need to be able to make your budget decisions. And then just the formality of the language is what we would make sure is correct.
So we would turn it into a two-part process, but should council decide to approve the elements of this tonight, you would be able to go forward with budget work, and then the council would take up the final approval of two separate resolutions.
Provided that you don't make it too complicated.
Yeah, I think you could make a motion to support the implementation of the fees in the budget.
Yeah.
And then at the next meeting, we can bring back the separated resolutions.
That makes sense.
Councilor Kaplan?
Yeah, I kind of thought that's what we did last time. We gave direction to come back with these fees as you have done. I'm a little puzzled why we feel like we need to have a resolution nailing this down when there are other elements of the revenue side that don't get nailed down before we load the budget. It seems like the direction to staff to load the budget with a fee of $7 on AF for wildfire, $5 for public safety, and the 5 or 9 or whatever it ends up being for parks should be sufficient, right? And wouldn't need actually to be a resolution. We don't have. Just recall that the Budget Committee is going to start meeting in a couple of weeks, and one of the charges of the Budget Committee is to set the tax rate. That doesn't happen until the very end of the process, but we still load the budget in as if the tax rate that the city manager is recommending. So I don't quite see why we have to have the resolution completely nailed down as long as we've got this council's agreement on what we think those levels should be.
I think it's the same thinking as the council approval of the CIP, that it's the council's authority with the fees, just like it is with the CIP. So bringing this prior to CBC, since it is the council's authority around revenue when it comes to fees, the timing made sense.
Councilor Hanson?
Yeah, with all due respect, we've already had these two fees in our bills, and I see them tied together. I don't want to kick any cans down the road, but I also don't think that we need to future-proof something that came to us packaged up, ready to go tonight. So I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze. I know that the budget process will hang their hats on this, whether we recommend it or whether we vote it in as a resolution, all the same. But we're here, and as I stated, we've had these fees on our bills already. They're tied together. And I feel very comfortable, voting on these two individually. The parks fees new, it's separate. I get that it's a separate resolution. Again, I just don't think the juice is with the squeeze. I think we should just move forward.
So go ahead, Sabrina.
I think something to keep in mind too, if there's the will in the future to amend the resolution, that's easily done.
Do that easily.
To separate it out in the future. So we will, after we hear from the public, we will take up first the question of whether we want to move this forward in its current form, or whether we want to take a separate process that expands it out over the course of this meeting and the next. But for now, we are going to move on to the public
Mayor.
testimony.
Question.
We're going to come back to more questions.
For the resolution itself?
We are not discussing the resolution yet. We're discussing the concept of it, and we're taking in public hearing. I'll open it back up for more questions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll wait till it's opened back up. I have a question.
Okay, so let's go ahead.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
I did receive clarification that all those who signed up want to speak on the parks fee.
All
If
of
that
them?
helps, all of them. Oh, I lied, sorry.
Okay. So what we'll do is take the public testimony on wildfire or public safety, and then we will take up the question of the structure and ask any other additional questions, and then we will, once we've resolved that, we will move on to the parks question. So Paul Mozina, please come forward to speak to the public safety fee. And you'll have 3 minutes up at the podium. Again, the same instructions apply. You'll watch the red, yellow, green lights, and you'll have 3 minutes. Please start with your name and the city in which you reside.
Thank you. My name is Paul Mozina. I live in Ashland. This council and city administration are trying to run the Ashland Fire and Rescue Department's EMS single role program, quote, like a business. That analogy might be appropriate for a nonprofit business. Then the EMS single role program could focus on public safety and increasing the number of days between calls where there was no unit available to respond. Unfortunately, the focus appears to be on maximizing the revenue stream to offset the cost of the fire department. Providing scheduled, non-emergency ambulance transports is one of the ways the fire department earns revenue. And since 2020, these ambulance runs have increased 160%. Okay. In 2023, Ashland Fire and Rescue made 449 non-emergency ambulance transports, and they did 558 in 2024. So after adding 8 full-time FTEs, Ashland Fire and Rescue has improved from 1 day between calls where there was no one available to respond to 3 days. I think we can do better. Imagine what the rate would have been if Ashland Fire and Rescue hadn't made 558 non-emergency ambulance transports in 2024. This is where the business model breaks down. I don't want to pay additional public safety fees so Ashland Fire and Rescue can compete with Mercy Flights and other for-profit ambulance service providers. I want Ashland Fire and Rescue EMS teams at their stations ready to respond to real medical emergencies, not out transporting a person from one hospital to another. If Ashland Fire and Rescue was a business, the city would not attempt, nor could it even try, to charge a fee to people for a service they did not receive, and at the same time reduce the availability of a service they thought they were paying for. We are being asked to subsidize Ashland Fire and Rescue's ambulance service, which, according to the city administrator, has hit a threshold in terms of answering calls. If Ashland Fire and Rescue were a business, there would be some attempt to analyze why there has been a 51% increase in medical dispatches, since 2020. Who are the customers of Ashland Fire and Rescue's EMS services? Where are they calling from? Are there patterns in their medical emergencies? A real business would be asking and answering these questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, so we have no other public members who would like to speak to us on this topic, so we will take up any additional questions. Councilor Bloom?
Yeah, thank you for the, again, for the resolution related to public safety and wildfire. Questions around Section 3. It states an annual escalator such as Consumer Price Index shall be applied on July 1st of each fiscal year to adjust for inflationary increases. The Finance Department shall use the escalator that is relevant and consistent with the city's practices of adjusting costs due to inflation. So the question that I have around that is, what CPI metric do you use? What is the city's policy? Is there a reason that that isn't clearly stated in the resolution so people are aware of what it is? And the reasoning why I would like to see it included and that it is codified in that sense is what I'm concerned about is that in one sense we're going to use one CPI metric and say that let's say it's 3% to use a number. There's another one that's 5%. Let's go with the 5% one instead. I think that it's important that we have, a very consistent indicator on how we go about doing that.
Sure, and certainly we can put that in there if that is the desire. In fact, the reason why it was written that way was to stay consistent with whatever CPI index we were using for all other types of escalators.
Could you clarify what?
CPIU.
West or just?
I think it's just CPI. I don't think it's West. I think it's just CPIU, March to March. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is what we use for our living wage calculations, consistently what we use.
Sure. I just say as long as there's consistency, and I think that it's important to be included in there so that, not saying any of you, but in the future, somebody doesn't decide to kind of mess around with that. To that point, though, about the CPI element of this, I'm curious if we should include safeguards stating that, for instance, the finance department shall include public notice of the proposed adjustment at least 30 days before it takes effect, along with a brief explanation for the public, as they will be seeing that increase to the fee, and that any annual increase above 5% would come before the city council for approval, again, so that we don't just have runaway increases in that fee.
If it is the will of the council, sure.
So a follow-up to that, Marianne, can you just speak to our general policy for cost escalation? I'm assuming, and I think people generally would, that we would be using one index. That index may change over time if we identify that there's a reason that a particular index is not tracking with the way that our expenses are shifting. But do we pick different indexes for different
some
issues around the city?
Yeah, so for Public Works, I think they use ENR, but for most others, we're using CPIU.
Okay. Yeah, great, thank you. Councilor Duquesne.
Thank you, Mayor. Actually, Councilor Bloom snatched my question right out of my mouth. Thank you, Councilor. But just kind of to piggyback on that, where it says it's going to be an escalation and the ratepayer does not know. And I believe, I support the rates. However, escalation, I can't support that. I don't think if it goes up 3%, it should come back to council, because we are in a very precarious time right now in the world, and I don't want to see escalation fees and things just automatically fall on that utility bill. And I mean, Recology just kind of goes up and there it is. I don't want to be in that situation with these new taxes on our bills. And I believe it's our fiduciary responsibility to bring this back to council when if there was going to be an inflation or an escalation fee on an ongoing annual basis. I think that our ratepayers are tapped out. And
Did you have a question? We're still in the question section. Did you have a question?
No, I don't have a question, but I thought we were talking about the way this is structured. So question, can this be eliminated from the escalation fee be eliminated and the inflationary fee?
So if it's council's will, the idea behind the automatic escalator is that we don't want to fall behind again, like we have with these fees, and then have to ask for large increases. So for example, a $5 fee, last year CPI was about 3%, that's 15 cents, right? A 15 cents additional to the fee would be the increase. So the idea is to do small incremental increases, which may or may not keep up with what we're trying to fund, but at least would not have us back at zero when we come back to discuss the fees.
I appreciate that, and I still would like to adhere to 3%, it comes back to council. That's our job. So if that's what we need to do to keep our citizens tree abreast of what's happening as we move forward, I think it's valuable and it's important. And if that's what we need to do, then that's what we need to do.
Okay. Are there any final questions of staff? Councilor Dale.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, so along these same lines, and Sabrina, I understand exactly what you're saying about the automatic escalation. The issue that I still have with it is the reason that we've fallen behind is one of two reasons. Either staff at the time didn't bring it to council. I haven't read all the minutes. I can't imagine that was not the case, or was the case. Or council just did not vote yes on it. And this is one of those things, just to be perfectly honest, relative to previous councils, with utmost respect. you got to do the work, right? And that's why we're doing this, because the problem that I have, and I do have a question here, because even if we build this in, 3 slides ago, you had one that said that personnel costs are 15%, 16, 20%. CPI, I'm looking here, median for the past 5 years has been somewhere about 4 and change, we'll say, maybe a little bit lower. Would you agree? Yeah, ish, yeah. So whether it's an automatic escalation or whether we have to, it's just a matter of how slowly how we keep those lines from diverging. But they're diverging regardless. You might as well have a 15% escalator in there based on your numbers to keep the lines the same. So that begs the larger question, what are we doing irrespective of the fees or the amount or the auto escalation to make sure that we cannot let those lines diverge? Because that's how we get in the problem in the first place.
Yeah.
So I know that might be to Sabrina, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think that's to Sabrina.
There's a lot of eye contact with, not me.
Yeah.
I think that's okay. Yeah, I think, there's a lot of things that are going to happen in this next biennium. And one is continuing to look at, how we're delivering service, what level of service makes sense given, the areas of revenue we're getting. What does that mean in terms of personnel? And I think you're right. These fees will assist, but we're probably going to see a continued escalation that outpaces CPI because, it's not just people. There's other things involved. So this is our small attempt to keep those lines from diverging as quickly as they have been, recognizing that there's other elements and other revenue that we need to be looking at, right, that were brought up earlier with the franchise fees, monitoring the ambulance, revenue, things like that. But I would assume that this is a continued conversation about the level of service we're providing and our ability to keep doing that in the future and what that means in terms of the revenue that we need. Because to be very clear, these fees are another revenue line of many in the general fund that we are trying to make up that gap, like many cities are.
Thank you.
Before we move on to additional questions, I just want to make a note of the time. We are at 8:10. We still have at least 25 people who would like to talk to us this evening. And so if we can just keep that in mind as we ask these final few questions. Councilor Hansen?
Thank you. City Manager, when was the last time we raised these fees?
2018 and 2019.
2018 and 2019, so 5-6 years ago. When was the last time we raised the electric rates?
2021. 21.
21.
21.
21. How about the water rates?
2019.
2019. Those questions point to my distrust of the people sitting in these seats in the future to take care of our city budget so we don't have such large jumps that we need to make. I believe that we need these escalators in there because politicians don't like to raise rates. They don't like to charge citizenry because of their own political ambitions. And it's incumbent that we put something in here so we don't surprise the citizenry every 4, 6, 8 years with massive rate increases.
So let's, final questions, Councilor Kaplan?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. It's so I feel somewhat similarly to what some others have said that we've kind of not dealt with the revenue issue that has been coming up. We haven't been raising fees. We also in the last budget discussion 2 years ago approved a revenue study. We didn't actually, the revenue study never came to us. We didn't proceed on that. It was taken out of the plans. So at this point, we're having to look at things that we can do relatively easily rather than do something that might be, more considered and forward-looking and progressively weighted. So my question is, assuming we go forward on this, can we actually get a solid revenue study on to look at a whole range of alternatives rather than just looking at the ones that are relatively easy to put on?
Yeah, I think that can be part of the strategic plan study that we're going to do, encompass that. I mean, I think there's some other revenue opportunity that we've discussed around vacancy taxes and whatnot that, as you stated, are a little more complicated to implement, right? And fees are a fairly common revenue source for jurisdictions throughout the state. But I can understand that there's a desire to have other revenue and not fees. I think it's just really a decision for council to make around, balancing the need for revenue versus, the desire and need for service.
Thank you.
Well,
Councilor,
yeah.
did you have a follow-up?
Well, just to comment, not all revenue is not the same because revenue has a source. And so some revenues hit every household equally and therefore has a higher burden on lower income households than other revenue sources that would hit lower income households in a lower proportion.
So let's go ahead and move on. Councilor Bloom?
Yeah, thank you. So the next question I have is moving on about liens. I understand ORS and how it works, that you can't put a lien on a property owner's home if they are renting it out because the person that is, let's say, failing to pay the fee, that's on their utility. So I do understand that. I just don't see the value of having that in a resolution whatsoever, of having a mechanism for a lien because somebody didn't pay a fee. We already have that mechanism for the overall utilities. So this feels, one, redundant, and I don't know, it doesn't make sense. If that could be something to be removed, I would be supportive of that.
If I may.
Yeah.
So this is where I come in, and this is my addition. So you can remove if you like, but the issue gets down to measure 5 and whether this is a fee or a tax. And this is to clarify that this is in fact fee and that it's not a tax. And so to do that, I put this language in there. And so
this is the mechanism.
This is the mechanism.
Okay, completely understand. I really appreciate you clarifying that. And then, again, because we still haven't wrapped up the CPI question, I don't know if now is the appropriate time or later, but I think it's important that we include that language in there, and also about the reporting when it does go up, and then having a cap. So if it reaches a certain threshold, it comes back to council for discussion.
Yeah, I would recommend, if that's the desire of council, to, when you make the motion, to include that that we use CPIU, that we give 30-day notice, that the fee will be increasing, and that if it is above 5%, that we bring back it to council for approval.
Great. So the first thing we need to do, councilors, is identify whether you would like to take this up as the current resolution that is in front of you as a motion, or whether you are interested in essentially approving the concept and asking staff to come back with 2 separate resolutions. Is that, just very quickly, if you would prefer that this go forward this evening in its current form, please just put your hand up so I can get a quick check. And if you prefer that it be split. Okay, so we will take up the question of it being split first. So what that structure would look like, just to make sure that we have this correct, that the council, the motion would be to support these 2 fees in these amounts and to direct staff to come back with the language that we have in front of us, any amendments that people want to make to it, as 2 distinct resolutions at the next meeting. That's correct. Okay. All right. The floor is open for a motion. Councilor Bloom?
Yes, so I move to direct staff to return at the next business meeting with Resolution 2025-04 to be divided between the public safety fee and the wildfire protection fee, as well as to specify that the annual escalator shall be based on the CPIU as per policy for the most recent 12-month period available, not to exceed 5% annually. That the Finance Department shall provide public notice of the proposed adjustment at least 30 days before it takes effect, along with a brief explanation of the CPI calculation, and that any annual increase above 5% requires separate approval by the City Council via duly noticed public meeting.
There a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Councilor Bloom?
No, I think we've exhausted discussion on this. I've explained my reasoning and happy to move forward.
Councilor Dale?
Yeah, same, and just for the record, I support the monetary amount just so that you can have budgeting discussions, but I think as a future, it's a little bit of hard work now, but it makes it easier for us to do for future councils to be able to deal with this and track it.
Sabrina, does the motion, the way it's worded, give you and the budget team what you need?
Yes, we will put it on consent.
Okay. Further discussion? Okay, roll call, please, Alyssa.
Duquesne,
Yes.
Kaplan,
Yes.
Bloom,
Yes.
Dale,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Thank you. So we will move now to the question of the parks fee, and what I would like to do is first take public input on it. We've had significant discussion about it already. So we have a number of folks who have signed up this evening. There's at least 20. And given our time constraints, what I'd like to do is give everyone, we can do any amount we want, right? Okay. We have more precision now with this machine. Let's give everyone 1 minute and 15 seconds. So here's the thing. Excuse me. I need to make something very, very clear here this evening. This council has its business to do. There are certain ways in which the public comes to interact with us. And what that requires is that people follow the rules and that they are courteous. There are a couple of things that are required here. One is that there are no signs in this building. There is also no calling out from the audience. What we are trying to do this evening is to get through this discussion and hear from everyone. One of the things we do, especially when I have a big list of folks who want to talk to us, is we do allow some other elements. And one of those is that if you agree with something somebody is saying, you can do this. And what that does is that we can see all of you. And what that does is it tells us if something that somebody is saying has broad support in the room. And that helps us know what is the feel of this room and what are people here to talk to us about. And that also allows us to say that when you get up for your time period up at the microphone, it's not always necessary to repeat what somebody else has said if you have signaled us already that you agree to it. This helps us get through these very dense and difficult agendas while still hearing everything that you want to say to us, but being able to move quickly. The way that we have this set up in this corner here where you'll come to speak is it also allows you to line up. And because it allows people to line up in order and move very quickly between the microphone, I can actually give more than 1 minute. I can give you 1:15 because the transitions won't take so long. But we want to hear from everyone, and we have other agenda items that we are also very timely this evening that we need to get to. So we are going to move through that. Alyssa's going to help us move quickly. Remember that if you get to the end of your time and the button has gone red, to just please finish your final sentence and step back so that we can hear from the next person. I will call out a series of people so that they can line up behind each other against that back wall, and we can make sure that we hear from everyone. So the first person is Christina Lefevre. Then we have Logan, Chris Benoit, John Maurer, and Louise Perret. Again, in order, Christine Lefevre, Logan, Chris Benoit, John Maurer, and Louise Perret. And then I will tell other people in the order that they have signed up here with my paperwork. Please tell us your name, the city that you reside in, and then begin your testimony.
My name is Christina Lefevre, and I reside in Ashland. Thank you for such in-depth discussions on these important budget matters. I will be sending you an email in the interest of my time. I want to state that Ashland would not be Ashland without its parks, and specifically North Mountain Park and the Nature Center. This park and center has been providing invaluable space and educational and recreational opportunities to this city, and in fact the county and surrounding region for decades. We need to honor the vision that created this beautiful place and helped Ashland to be such a beautiful and attractive town for tourists, residents, schools, businesses, and all the organizations with the many missions who find this an invaluable resource and have used it and supported it over the years. A week's notice to close North Mountain Park does not honor your constituents or your community. It does not give us the time to respond with better ideas. I feel confident we can do better, that we can do more, and I'll send you my email. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And just as a reminder, that little buzzer comes in when you still have 20 seconds. You can keep coming. Let's give her 15 seconds back.
Don't take my time. Let's see, where was I now? I feel confident that we can do better, that we can do more to save this jewel and keep it in operation. I, for one, am willing to accept an increased fee to better support parks, including and especially North Mountain Park and the Nature Center. I believe that many nonprofits, businesses, tourists, residents, and community members of this county and around the country will be likely to support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Logan Potts. I live here in Ashland. We moved here in 2011, and one of the reasons we moved to Ashland is because of the parks and the community. Our kids grew up going to the Salmon Creek Festival at North Mountain Park. The wildlife there is incredible, and if we lose that park, we're going to be losing a big part of Ashland. I don't think we need to be building new parks when we have so many great parks already. We have extra water this year from the snow, and we don't need to be cutting back on these important things. Taxes are going up, and lots of things are going up, and people deserve to go to their parks. They deserve to go to the water park, the Garfield Park. That should be able to go. That should be able to run. If we only had those two parks and Lithia Park, I mean, we should be able to keep those going at least. But there's only so many parks in Ashland. We should be able to keep all of them maintained and running forever. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for your time. My name is Chris Benoit. I live in Ashland, and I have two young children, ages 8 and 12. I also work for the Parks Department in Western Division out of Lithia. I'm not here today to just advocate for my coworkers facing layoffs. I'm also here to advocate for my community. I, like many people I know and have heard from on this issue, came to Ashland for its elevated Parks and Recs department. I specifically bought a house and put off moving here until I could secure a job in Lithia. It was that important to my family and I. As we are facing these cuts to staff and services, I ask you to imagine what it would look like with no nature center, no environmental education for our children, no splash pad or ice rink, no public pool, reduced hours at the senior center, and no restrooms for locals and tourists alike who come to visit our parks. I know fees hurt, but if we allow these cuts to happen, Ashland will not be a place the young families will choose to make a home. Ashland will not be a place tourists and visitors will think of as special and unique. I'm in support of the $9 parks fee, and I'm asking you for your support as well. The $5 fee is short-sighted and still comes with cuts. I personally do not want to pay for more and get less. Just ask me what you need to properly fund our parks and rec with no cuts to employees or services. Please don't mask the most vulnerable of our communities, our seniors and children, to bear the burden of a budget shortfall. Our parks director has said this is the number we need to avoid staffing and service cuts. Help us keep Ashland special and unique. Help us to keep educating children in environmental and nature sciences. Help us to keep...
Sir. Thank you. After John Maurer and Louise Perret, we have Drew Bailey, Charlotte Halpert, and Jessica Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. John Maurer, lived here 50 years. Like you all, I've been watching closely that $20 million that's in the CIP. When we saw that being published, I was very excited until I got to the last of the 12 items, and there wasn't anything earmarked for the golf course. As a taxpayer, I'm appalled that the course is not self-sustaining, that it isn't treated as a business. It's treated as another amenity that we do so well. However, okay, as a golfer, having lived in the city as long as I have, a city that excellence is what this city does, whether it's schools, whether it's performing arts, we do things at the very best. And this golf course is a laughingstock of the golfing community. Here we are, in the 5 years that the CIP has taken place, we have a gem of a course designed by an architect that has designed two of the most famous courses in San Francisco. It can be a revenue center and should be if it's dealt with appropriately. It needs money to make money. You have to, it's not sustainable the way it's running, and it'll be a total loss. Give it some thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
Louise Paré, living in Ashland. I was born and raised in this valley. I grew up on a small 6-acre farm. I know what the value of gardening and raising one's own food. I had a plot in the community garden on Hersey. I really support, as a low-income senior, the raising of the fees to $9 so that we can maintain the North Mountain Park Center and materials that they have produced. I used to take my kids there when I was teaching. They learned about Native American and indigenous peoples, so the tremendous brochure that they produced because they had full-time staff. So I support this, your consideration for raising this fee so we can keep this wonderful community garden, which many cities would be really envious of, as well as the value of North Mountain Park with full staff. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Mayor. Drew Bailey. I've lived in Ashland for over 26 years. I have prior service with the city prior to becoming a Parks Department employee. Parking control, park patrol, community service officer, a reserve police officer with over 1,000 hours of volunteer time, a police officer, and I worked in the street department, and now the Parks Department for the last 2 years. To say I don't have a vested interest in this outcome wouldn't be a true statement. I believe that all our parks employees have a vested interest in this. I would encourage you, please, to accept the $9 fee on our utility bills. I can afford that. Let me share with you one quick tidbit. Everybody's familiar with the dog park? Okay. So on the average daily haul away down there, I remove 40 pounds of dog waste. Times that times 365, that's 14,600 pounds or 7.3 tons of dog waste. That's one level of service that we provide this community that is important. You can see how busy that park is down there. Amongst the vandalism, cleaning the restrooms, I'm proud to say I do it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
After Charlotte Halpert and Jessica Johnson, we'll have Jennifer Aguero, Brianna Potts, and Phil Newton. Okay, say your name and where you're from.
My name is Charlotte, and I'm from Ashland. I think that we should keep all parks and all pools because they are fun. Oh, and the ice skating rink, because I think it's fun and it's a good way to have some outdoor fun in the winter.
It's great for all the kids. We support the $9 fee. Say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are very happy always to see young people. Thank you for coming out. And just a reminder to the audience that we don't have clapping coming from the audience. But lovely, so lovely to see young people who have come out to talk to us.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, community, for the forum. My name is Jessica, and I've lived here 8 years. I live nearby and walk through North Mountain Park nearly every day. I've watched otters and beavers return thanks to decades of restoration work, seen kids learn about nature in countless school programs, and enjoyed events like the Salmon Festival, all made possible by staff like Jen, who've worked tirelessly despite shrinking budgets. I've gotten my hands dirty and scraped limbs pulling blackberry bushes with volunteers of all kinds, restoring habitat for countless wildlife, and mitigating local fire risk at a very low cost. This is just a small personal slice of what these parks offer. These cuts threaten a lot of what makes Ashland special, and our public spaces are priceless and essential for our community's well-being, especially when many amenities are out of reach for the working class these days. No one should wait in 100-degree heat for a porta potty when we have working restrooms. and firing frontline workers like Jen, who's done the job of multiple people for years, while commuting from Central Point because she can't afford to live here, feels like a slap in the face. So we urge you, please reject these cuts. We are willing as a community to support the $9 fee and to look beyond spreadsheets to the faces of this community and the families that rely on these programs. Thank you.
Thank you. After Jennifer Aguero and Brianna Potts, we have Phil Newton, Carol Carlson, and Carter Paxton. Go ahead.
My name is Jennifer Aguayo.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm the coordinator for North Mountain Park Nature Center. For 8 years, I have served the people of Ashland with dedication and devotion, and I just want to pause and thank all the volunteers and the people who I know from walking in the park every day, who I see in the room, and all the people who couldn't stay because this took a while. I just wanted to say, I live in Central Point. I commute here to serve the people of Ashland. You have beautiful parks, and I have 8 parks where I live. I pay a $6 a month fee on my utility bill, and I'm grateful to do it. I pay that $6 for the local parks that I don't even spend as much time in as I spend in Ashland parks, because I want my community to have those parks. The community is really the parks are the lifeblood, and they're the soul of this community. They are so important. I have 8 parks where I come from. Ashland has more than 20 that they can go to in their own neighborhoods anytime they want. And I have a lot of people who really would miss the services that are provided by the Nature Center, the Senior Center, the pool and ice rink. There must be a better way that we can meet these budget constraints without cutting the things that make Ashland unique and special and serve the people of Ashland. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Brianna. I'm a resident of Ashland. I've been here for 14 years. The parks are one of the reasons why my family chose to live here and to relocate from out of state. We have 2 young kids. We rely on these parks. We rely on the splash pad, the ice skating rink. These are core parts of what make Ashland so special. I know I'm being redundant. This has been said better than the way I'm saying it, but it's important. We need these parks. We need places to come together as a community, to meet together as a community. North Mountain Park is one of the most special places. It's unique, the ability to interface with nature in the way that that park is structured. We don't have that anywhere else in the way that it's there. Salmon Festival, that has been a key part of what my family does. We get to see community that we wouldn't otherwise see. We get to learn things that we wouldn't be able to otherwise learn in the same way. So there has to be a better way than just cutting these. Also, I want to point out, after sitting here, it still wasn't clear to me what was being cut. What are we talking about here? Is it the pool? Is it the ice skating rink? Like, are we fully understanding what could be cut here? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Phil Newton. I live in Murphy. I'm the new assistant representative for the Teamsters Local 223 here in Southern Oregon, and your neighbor for over 42 years. Appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. 2 weeks ago, the frontline workers of Ashland Parks, the people who maintain the trails around the community gardens, staff the senior and nature centers, and keep your parks clean and safe, chose to unionize with the Teamsters. Since then, some of the city's decisions have raised some concerns for us. We've recently learned that Jen Aguayo, who has led the Nature Center for years and kept it operating through much of the pandemic, is being laid off, not because her work isn't valued, not because her position is unnecessary, but as part of broader cuts that fall hardest on frontline staff, even if the proposed $5 park fee is approved. To be clear, highly experienced, long-serving staff members being cut at real human cost. Meanwhile, newly hired administrative roles are being kept intact. It creates the impression these cuts are being used to force a difficult choice, pay more or lose the vital public services. That feels like a false choice to us. We know there are real fiscal challenges, and we hope you can meet them in less destructive ways. Thank you.
Thank you. After Carol Carlson and Carter Paxton, we have Maggie and Paloma, Manuel Diaquino, And Mike Gardner.
Greetings, Council. My name is Carter Paxton. I moved to Ashland in 2017 and immediately fell in love with the community of the town, especially the parks and the community gardens. I was recently a member of the community garden at SOU until it was suddenly shuttered about a year ago. This spring, I came up on the wait list after waiting a year for a spot at the Clay Street Community Garden. Last week, I watched the Ashland Parks and Rec meeting and was disturbed and disappointed with several things I heard. One was the non-transparent and way in which the new budget and consequent cuts to the park system and its employees were presented. The other was the fact that the proposed park fee would have a community now paying a fee for offering less services. This just doesn't make sense. The Ashland Parks, pool, senior center, and especially the community gardens are now more important than ever an essential part of the community. If you took these nearly 100 garden plots away and they will be closed, they will join the nearly 100 from the SOU that were closed last year. These closures will affect the very young, senior, and all the members of our community that thrive in these spaces. I would encourage the council to look at the proposed parks fee of $9 and a vote on a measure that would continue to keep Ashland a vibrant and desirable community to live in. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Carol Carlson, and I live in Ashland. I have gardened at the Ashland Creek Community Garden for 22 years, since the beginning, and most of us there have been there for 10 years or so. Each year we get excited about something. This year I'm excited about using that garden as an educational hub for teaching people how to grow their own food. It's like so ideal. There's 50 plots, everyone does something different. So you can go from each plot and even talk to the people and say, why are you doing it this way? And how does that work? And but what I really want to tell you is that volunteers don't cost anything. I'm a volunteer. Our 4-team management of the community garden, we're all volunteers. We don't cost anything. And we divide up the tasks among other people in the garden, and we get it all done. So I would just like to say to staff that I think we could run that garden for nothing. And I'd like to talk to you about that.
Thank you.
Hello, Council. My name is Manuel D'Aquino. I live here in Ashland. Thanks for taking on this important issue tonight. I hope you can come to a good resolution for the community. My wife and I moved here almost 9 years ago. We came for visits several times before deciding to move to Ashland. And one of the things that convinced us to move here were the parks. The parks to us say a lot about the community, the character, what's important to the people that live here and have lived here. So I'm thankful for the people decades ago who invested in parks because we get to live with that amenity and that community today. I use the parks regularly for recreation, to see wildlife, to be out with people. And one of the things that I see in those parks are families. And I think it's so important for the future of this city and the vibrancy of the city to welcome more families here. And if we don't have parks for families to use, they're not as likely to want to come here. One other observation, during the pandemic, during the height of it, one thing that I noticed, even though OSF was closed down, is a lot of people were still coming to Ashland and they were using the parks. So it's something that brings people to Ashland, and I hope that you will support keeping them going, and I support the $9 fee increase. Thank you.
Thank you. Maggie and Paloma, are they still here? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, staff. Mike Gardner, I live here in Ashland. I've already reached out to the council on regarding the $9 fee for parks. The Park and Rec Commission discussed this at our meeting last week and wholly supported moving that forward to the council, and I hope you'll consider that. only wanted to make a couple comments regarding level of service and the process that Parks and Rec is going through right now to try to identify the level of service and make sure that we're putting our money where it's best used and most appropriately used for the citizens. The other thing I heard tonight that I just want to comment on is it kind of sounded like a couple of councilors were talking like they might want to drain the CIP to handle operations, and I think that would be a major mistake to consider changing the way the food and beverage is used. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone who spoke with us this evening. I know you had to move faster than you were intending, but we appreciate your cooperation as this helps us to get the work done. So we are back to our presentation. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us before we open it up for more questions from council?
Just as a note, I recommended a $5 fee. That would require some reduction in park services. That recommendation came from an assessment of all of the fees that we are looking to assess, as well as the incoming water rates and electric rates that we know will be going up. So keeping a global view of things. I did go to the Parks Commission last week. They made a symbolic motion that they would like to see a $9 fee, which would maintain our current parks and recreation services. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I do have the detail, maybe you can go to the next slide, Marianne, of what impact our current reduction. So this is with the $5 fee. This is the detail of what will be reduced. And then we also have what would further be reduced if we do not have the $5 fee.
And that information's in the packet. Yes, so anyone who is watching from home or in the audience, that information is in the packet. And so did we want to carry on? Did you have a question on the last slide?
Yes, I have a question on the last slide.
On the last slide. Can we go back one slide then? Councilor
yes,
Kaplan?
Yeah. My question, I've seen the tables, I've seen, some of these numbers flying around. Could you give me a clear answer on what is the budget gap? What is the gap we're talking about in dollars? Not in things that have to be cut, but what are we talking about? I see the original proposed budget up there of $15.8 million. That's a biennial budget. That's 2 years. Fiscal 25-27, is that correct?
So the original budget that was submitted by the Parks Commission is that 15.8 roughly million.
For 2 years?
For 2 years.
And what is the gap that, so
it is the 500, so with the $5, that generates roughly $750,000 in revenue.
That's telling me how you're filling the gap. Tell me the gap. What's the gap? How much does it cost? This is what you say it costs to run the Parks Department with exactly the same service levels that we currently have. Is that correct?
So if it's a tough question to answer directly because we are requested to add additional services as part of our budget. So that 17.8 million includes staffing and maintaining Pioneer Hall and the community center. So those are two assets that have not been in our budget for over 5 years. Additionally, this takes a position from operation to help support the senior center. Additionally, this 15.8 takes additional revenues we have for seasonal employees to turn into one position to help support not only our other recreational programs, but those two additional amenities, Pioneer Hall and the community center on there. As well, that's $80,000 to help open up and manage the grill at the golf course. So the 15.8 is that additional $700,000 to support those additionals. At the 15.2 is the baseline budget, which has cuts. So holding our budget even with the cost increases means there is reduction in services that are outlined with that $5 to create 15.2 million.
Can I also add some context as well? So for fiscal 24, total revenue for parks, for just their parks fees, was 1.5 million, and their expenditures operationally, so this is just operational, was 6.1 million for a net of 4.6 million negative. 2023, as just additional context, revenues were 699,000, and operational expenditures were 6.8 million for a net negative of 6.1 million, which the general fund is funding.
I'm still trying to get a handle on a gap.
So I think in summary, so my budget direction was to not have an increase. Parks had an increase because we are giving them facilities.
Right.
The Parks Commission and Council also approved the purchase and acquisition of the East Main Park property. So there is operational requests to increase the budget. We had a large $8.5 million deficit in the general fund, which resulted in cuts in all departments and reduction in staff in several departments. This is the cut that Parks has taken with a $5 fee. Now, if you go to the next slide, this is if we don't get the fee. It is everything that was on the slide before, as well as these things.
Can you go back one? So the 15.8 is what you would have if the council approved a $9 fee increase. The 15.2 is what you would have if the council approved a $5 fee.
And we'd
Is that
have-
sort of the simple way for us to look at these numbers?
Yes,
Yes.
and if there was no fee, we would have 14.45 million.
So
14.45, which drops it back down that additional $5. Okay. Councilor Captain, did you have a follow-up? Because I think we need to clarify that we understand what these numbers are. So if it's on something different, I can come back to you.
no, it's on this, I guess, because with this explanation you just gave, is that the $5 fee would generate $15.8 million minus $15.2 million. That's $600,000 is what I'm understanding.
So no, it's not generating that dollar amount in the budget. It's off of the electric meters, and what it would generate in the budget is, for the $5 fee, is $750,000 a year. So there's still, I think it's for by year, so 1.5 million in the biennium.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, and so that is what will help contribute to not doing the initial cuts, and then the $9 fee would help to bring up the rest, is what you're proposing.
If we had a $9, we would do everything in the management of the department to minimize any reduction in services and do everything that's been put before us. I don't have a crystal ball, don't know what my rates are going to be, but that would be the intent and the effort that we'd be doing if there was a $9 fee. If there's a $5 fee, what we've done is chosen to ensure that our low barrier access, our parks, are maintained. In addition to our parks, we have mandates through ordinance and codes to do that. As additional business, we pay a living wage in Ashland for all of our seasonal employees, so that's a 25% increase over our competitors in the valley, which I'm happy to pay, but those are real operational costs that reduces our number of hours by dollar. And so what we've tried to do is, using my hand as an analogy, we're not cutting our nails, we're cutting the top of our phalanges across all of our programs are related to those cuts. And with environmental education, we're removing a finger to preserve the rest of our hand. That's what we're trying to do to make sure that those 20 parks that we have out there continue to remain open, those things that generate a lot of man hours and a lower level of utilization we're trying to. So if we have the $5, we're looking to reduce some days of service for the pool and ice rink, and we're looking to ensure that the splash pad is open when it's 90 degrees and above and on weekends to ensure that we have as much use as we can. That splash pad takes us 3 to 4 hours of, every 4 hours of operation we have to be in there, do water testing, we have state protocols we have to do. And so those are, when we have limited staff hours, we're trying to do the best we can. So I'll stop talking.
Councilor, did you have a?
I'm still confused by the numbers, because what I understand from this paper that you've got, I printed it out, that a 10% reduction if there's no park fee, of anything, right? Is that 10? No, if there's no fee, then it's $14.5 million. Is that correct for the biennium?
So if we don't have a park fee,
no park fee, you'd have a budget of
14.45 for operations.
Yes,
correct.
for operations. And if you have a $10 fee, or $9 fee, I'm sorry, a $9 fee, you would get up to 15.795. I'm not understanding that. I'm looking for a gap, and that's the way I see to fill the gap with the information that you've told me, that the fee is going to fill the gap.
Yes.
So what I don't understand is a $9 fee or a $10 fee generates over $3 million a biennium. So I don't.
So I'm going to respectfully disagree. And my understanding is it's a biennium, $750,000 for $5.
Well, we have
13,000 customers, $5. My understanding is every dollar we get for the biennium is $150,000 for the budget.
So 13,000 times $5 a month for 2 years, for 24 months is 1.56.
The fee would start in January. Our proposal was the parks fee would start in January, not in July.
So still, it's 6 months less. So it's 18 times 18.
The budget instruction I was given was 15.2 is your cost, and there would be a $750,000 reduction if we didn't have a park fee. And that's the numbers that I put forward before here. For my own sanity, it's easy for me to think in 5 and 10s, because I know those numbers aren't exact, but again, a 5% cut in our operating budget versus a 10% in regards to making me not talk about 9.78 or 4.32, those things. So that's on me, and I should have put the exact decimal points there instead. But $5 only gets us this sheet of operational reductions. No dollars for a park fee includes the additional page. And I understand that you guys are in a very tough position, and whatever policy direction you give me tonight, we will implement.
Councilor Bloom.
Thank you. And I appreciate that back and forth. It was illuminating. So the proposed cuts target the most publicly valued services. I think that that's pretty evident from what we're seeing here, my own experience growing up in Ashland and using these services, and what we've heard from the community. I'm curious how we got to this. So if you could show us a decision matrix, how you rank those programs, not cut a finger to save the hand, but a clear scoring card of how we got to this point. Because I've got a very dear friend of mine who's on RDAC, which is the Recreation Division Advisory Committee. And he said that a couple of weeks ago you had a meeting, which is hard to confirm because it's not listed as a meeting on our calendar and there's no minutes for it. But he said that RDAC was asked to rank all of the programs. And he thought that it was interesting and concerning that all the programs that got ranked the highest ended up on this cutting floor. So do you have a decision matrix? Do you have a scoring mechanism for how we got to this list?
I don't have a sheet to present you tonight. What I have is we looked at those items that were cut and make a direct one-to-one relationship. So if we don't have the extra recreational coordinator, and then those programs that supports are reduced. When we look at the other programs, we looked at what our operational costs are, what our cost recovery is, and what our utilization is. So for example, if I compare the golf course to the environmental education, I have 3 FTE versus 2 that are paid full-time staff. There's additional part-time staff for golf versus the Nature Center, environmental education. I generate about $500,000 to $750,000 in revenue that helps offset the cost for the golf course. And if I close the golf course, I still have 70 acres I have to manage. So I'm not losing 3 FTE, I'm losing 2 FTE. When I look at the Nature Center, and again, every program we have is valued and there's impacts. So I'm trying to look at it from a very business-focused perspective. On the Nature Center, we have a lot of programs. We only generate about $8,000 in revenue to offset those same costs. So when I'm looking at 20,000 user occasions for rounds of golf, buckets of balls, versus the thousands that do benefit from, that's where the decision matrix is trying to maintain what we have, make sure that our lowest barrier access, which are parks, where there is no cost of engagement, and ensuring that if I opened the ice rink a couple hours later on the weekend or minimize the hours during the week, we're still maximizing that for its economic benefit and as well as its recreational benefit.
Follow up? So I'm curious, how much do the community gardens cost?
So I have operational costs and I have a recreational coordinator cost. We don't do location-based task management, so I can't give you an exact cost of hours and costs for anything that we do.
So I guess I'm trying to understand then why that is on the proposed list of cuts.
It's part of the environmental education program, and the staff that would be laid off through these potential reductions, they're the ones that support it. If that is the decision that goes forward, that there is a $5 fee or no park fee, we would be working over the next 60 days to try to come up with plans to how we could keep as many things open as well. But tonight I can't say this is going to happen or that's not going to happen. You last time we met, you asked for specificity, and that's what we're trying to provide given the short time frame we have from identifying the budget cut to making those proposed reductions and coming forth with the support of the city manager on this potential opportunity to reduce the reductions that the community is going to feel.
Another quick follow-up.
Is it on the same train?
It is, yeah. I'm really curious because it goes back to this idea of the decision matrix and deciding to cut a community garden, which is largely driven by volunteers who manage their own plots. But to kind of drive this home, how this decision was made, was the Parks and Recreation Commission, were they part of this discussion? Were they informed, or were they just told as eyewitness at the last meeting, this is what's happening? Because it seems that they have a clearly defined role in helping decide some of these decisions, and it doesn't sound like they were included.
So they provide policy direction in the overarching budget. Operationally, it's our job to put those things together. I am sure based off of whatever decision is made tonight, there will still be continued engagement from a policy direction from the Park Commission.
And I think what is our concern this evening is what's in front of us here, what has come forward from our city manager and our Parks and Recreation Department in terms of what is on the table at these different levels. Councilor Duquesne.
Thank you, Mayor. I understand what's in front of us, but at our last meeting, former Councilor Nauer had a great question. Where'd the money go? How did we get here? It's my understanding at the last meeting of Parks and Recs, even Commissioner Gardner was not aware of this until a couple of weeks before it was presented. So I really appreciate our citizenry coming in front of us and sharing the residents of Ashland. I appreciate that. And I heard do better and no more purchase of parks. And I also heard someone come up and say that they do pay for a park fee where they live. But Ashland, we have 23% of the food and beverage goes to parks, and you have the general fund of 14% of it. So how did we get here? That is my question. If you run a business or you are head of a department, you know ahead of time that a deficit is coming. And then all of a sudden, we're here, $5 to $9.
So let's have Sabrina answer
Yeah,
that.
I think this goes back to the general conversation about why we need fees in the general fund, is that the revenue coming into the general fund, which is revenue that goes towards the operation of Parks and Rec, is not keeping up with the expenses. The majority of those expenses are being driven by rising personnel costs, but we've also made decisions, this biennium, such as using our interest from the general fund to pay for the wildfire logging, where we don't have as much money carrying forward into this biennium to fund the services that we want. We haven't had any utility rate increases, so we don't have that level of franchise fees. So all of the same caveats that we've talked about that go to public safety and the wildfire reduction fee apply to Parks and Rec as well.
This is a new fee. We've never had this fee before.
Correct.
And I believe that the residents of Ashland and the council, we need to know when this is happening before we have 2 weeks to make a decision that's going to impact 21,000 people. I can go to every other home and it's rent security, insecurity, and food insecurity. And I don't think that this is equitable. Everybody's coming from the same level playing ground. That's not happening when we compound all the rest of the fees that we've been talking about this evening and moving forward. So my question again was, where'd the money go? And we need a long runway. And this needs, in my opinion, and what I hear from our constituents, is that it takes, you see it coming. People need to be forewarned.
So I think that question has been answered. And where we are at this evening is very direct. It's a very direct question to this council. It is, if there is no fee, we see from the next slide what gets cut. If there's a $5 fee, we're buying this level of cut. And that's really what the council has to decide, because the staff has to come back to us with a budget that aligns with whatever this council has said tonight. And I hear, Councilor Duquesne, I hear your concern about the timing. I would like to have more timing. There's a lot of interesting ideas that are out there that we need to take up no matter what decision council makes tonight. I know the master planning is happening with Ashland Parks and Recreation Commission. There's a lot of things that are coming together over this next year, and I think the idea around revenue studies and those sorts of things, we can tackle more of that. But we have to get through this budget cycle. And so the question in front of the council tonight is, are you going to put forward any level of fee? And if so, what is that number? So given our timing, we are at questions. Are there any final questions, Councilor Dale?
Yes, I have that, and it's along those same lines. Thank you, Mayor. So obviously, to state what is beyond the obvious here, we need a budget in front of us to look. I understand where we're past that. My question is this. Mary Ann stated last night, correctly so, that the general fund does not, money just gets dumped into a general fund. There are multiple departments. Get that. There are no policies outside of being able to do budget transfers. Rocky, at the Parks Commission meeting on the 9th, you correctly said that we do not have ending fund balances by department. I get that. So as we think about a fee here, this is not necessarily a parks fee. This is a city fee. Right? It's getting budgeted this biennium into parks, but the possibility of it getting moved or something reallocated, how do you forecast past this biennium?
I can take some of that first.
Please.
And then I'll.
Because how do we not find ourselves in the same situation in 2 years?
So first, by resolution, it is a dedicated fee, and such as the public safety fee and the AFR fee. The AFR fee goes directly to fund specific wildfire mitigation work. Public safety fee goes towards what it listed out in that resolution. So whatever language you use in the resolution will be considered a dedicated restricted fee towards that.
Well, and I think the answer to your second part of your question is, how do we know we don't need an increase in the fee or we're not in this position in 2 years, is the same answer I gave to both the public safety and the wildfire fee, is that we don't. But during this biennium, we have to continue to assess our level of service and our personnel costs moving forward.
Okay.
In addition, we're working to restructure again to hopefully minimize or be more resilient as we move forward. As these things happen, we're trying to ensure that our structure matches our level of service and our resources.
Councilor Hanson?
Thank you, Mayor. Rocky, would you please advance to the $9 option? Because I just want to review again, and I know I stepped out to use the restroom. I had to do that. But I don't think I missed anything in particular, but I just want to look at that $9 fee and make sure that we're on the same page here. I mean, across the board, all departments have to reduce 5%, correct?
That was the direction that we gave. So with the $9 fee, that would preserve the Parks and Rec budget without that 5% reduction.
Okay, right. So when we look at our overall, and this is for you, City Manager, thank you, but when we look at our overall livability and our economic driver to get people into Ashland, we've heard so many people say they moved here because of the parks. We know our tourists come here for the parks. Like, what other fee can we implement that attracts people, that retains people, that gets tourists to move here? That is there anything else that we're proposing here in this scenario that will help? Because people aren't coming here for our wildfire prevention. People aren't coming here for our public safety. What other things are we proposing to keep people here, attract new people and tourists?
So I think to your point, Parks and Recreation does fall within kind of two of council's priorities, one being economic development and the other being livability. I think, Parks and Rec, given the amount of interaction they have with bringing events here and the quality of life they provide, have that direct tie to the council priorities. Is that?
Yeah, that's the answer I was looking for. I mean, talent has a fee of what? Parks fee of
$8.52, I believe.
They don't get it.
Right. I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
So, Councilor Bloom?
Yeah, thank you. To that point, yes, they do have a higher fee, but they're also not 14% of the budget, which I think is important. Look, I in general, I'm not really comfortable with this kind of zero-sum game of, if you don't pass these fees, we're going to cut all these programs that people love. I feel like we are having a gun put to our head to make that decision, and I think it's unfair to us, and I think it's unfair to the community. This fee isn't expected to be implemented
Councilor Bloom,
until
do you
January.
have a question?
I do, I'm getting there. Isn't expected to be implemented in January. So what are we doing for the next 8 months? How is, if we were to, let's say, to pass this, but it doesn't get implemented until January is when we collect fees. Alternatively, if we don't pass it, what's the situation? What does it look like over the next 8 months financially?
So we get a budget for the biennium, and we would try to make sure that our implementation of that budget is consistent. The thing I would hate to do is have everything being 100% for 1 year, and then there's huge cuts. We have requirements and responsibilities for operating and maintaining the properties we have that we have to do. And as such, what happens is we have to do the basics, the boring stuff. We have to eat the potatoes and the beets instead of going out and having kettle corn and steak and those things. And that's what we're trying to do here is, while there are reductions, we're trying to, again, maximize that we're meeting the mandates that we have for operations and trying to keep as much open as we can. There's no gun here. We're trying to be as fair and equitable across the board to ensure that as many people who benefit from our parks still can. The things that we are looking at reducing are either utilized less by most of the community, so trying to minimize that impact, or there are fees associated with that. I think at our last study session on the 30th, you had said, what are we doing about our park fees? On the 15th, you'll see. We're going from a $250 a season for park fees for using a sports field, trying to get to a market rate that's closer to $35 an hour per field. So again, we're we're not just relying on this one thing. It's a whole portfolio of elements and trying to continue to have more fees, more benefits, and looking at our operations to control our costs there. And
Great,
I
thank you.
appreciate that. Thank you. And I think it's, I think what I'm taking from that is that we actually, we do have time to have community input for the Parks and Recreation Commission to give that policy input of what they do want to prioritize as well. And that we could actually continue this conversation further down the road and still find a way to fully fund parks without doing an arbitrary $9 fee because somehow that's the programs that it'll save.
So is there, within the budget process, is there a way to stagger in this conversation and adapt the budget? What would happen, I guess I would say, is if this council didn't put any fee in or put a $5 fee in?
So to present a balanced budget, our revenue needs to match our expenditures. So, building the budget on no fee, we would remove the operational elements that Rocky is talking about, and they would have to be built back in if that revenue is found at a later date. In practicality, what that would mean is we would eliminate personnel.
And in that space, you would have to make those cuts immediate because of the budget. And then you have the disruption. So then if the community, if we were to come up with something later on in the year, now you have to rebuild from this, having shut different programs down. Is that correct? I see you. And so the last piece of this is if the council were to put a fee in place, because we know you're doing strategic planning and you're looking at a variety of different other things that, I know there is interest in looking at other ways of bringing revenue in. If the council put a fee in place, and then in this work, we found other revenue sources, we could come back before January and reduce that fee. That's correct. Okay. Councilor Kaplan, and then we need to move to get a.
No, I think I'm along the same lines. I was going to ask, if we approved a fee of $9 at this point, it gave instruction at this point, $9, that would load in the budget. So we'd have the budget discussions in the budget committee over the next couple of 6 weeks. That would also give opportunity for the Parks Commission to talk about priorities, because I would like to get, I watched the Parks meeting as well, and it was, it was clear that the Parks Commission didn't really feel like they had a lot of input, and I'd like to get there. They're the ones who were elected to set priorities for our park system, so I'd like to hear from them as well, and that would give us the opportunity as part of the budget committee process before we actually approve a final budget to come up with the final fee. And this way, it's backing things out rather than adding things in at the last minute. So is that a way that would break less China and give us the most maximum flexibility to go forward?
Yeah, I think that, we could do that moving forward. Just a point of clarification when it comes to operations. Rocky is, like the city manager, the operational decision maker. So while the Parks Commission's input is definitely warranted and welcome, a lot of what has been prioritized for reductions are things that are not the maintenance of the actual parks, because that has been my direction to Rocky, that we must maintain our actual parks because we must adhere to our own ordinances around weed abatement and et cetera. So that has been my direction as a city manager to Rocky to prioritize.
That's a fair point. At the same time, it seems to me that we've heard about some policies that the Parks Commission has that could affect costs going forward. So giving the Parks Commission an opportunity to weigh in on those kinds of decisions could actually make less of a budget gap than we would otherwise have and help us all get there. And we're getting tons of email. Those emails should be going to the Parks Commission. They're the ones who set the priorities for the parks rather than
Councilor,
than
do you
us.
have a question?
That was I asked my question. She answered it.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Hanson.
Thank you. I have a question. I appreciate you coming forward with the $9 fee in the slide, and the packet has a resolution based on a $5 fee. I'm prepared to make a motion. I'm curious if there's anything that needs to change with regards to the resolution 25-06, which in the packet has a $5 fee.
You would need to amend it to the dollar amount you want if you do not want the $5 fee.
Okay?
Okay.
Mayor, if you're ready.
The floor is open for a motion. Councilor
Thank-
Hanson.
Thank you very much. I move to approve Resolution 2025-06 to establish a park fee of $5 per electric meter with nominal annual inflationary escalators, and I would like to amend it to be a $9 fee per electric meter.
A second.
Councilor Hanson.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to look back at the poor general fund that doesn't have the property tax escalation to keep up with our rapidly rising costs of living. And I would like to look at our Parks Department that has been somewhat singled out because we can charge a fee for it relative to our neighbors, and that's an acceptable thing to do. So what we're here to do is swallow a bitter pill to help make our whole city whole, starting with our Parks Department in particular. This fee will go straight to parks. It will go straight to the social equity that and livability and the draw that this community is known for. It will support children, families, individuals, seniors, people who are out there using these programs, who are walking around. It'll support the workers that are getting the work done. And I've heard people from economic backgrounds say, I can afford this, that this is important to me, whether they're rich or they're poor. They're here telling us, please do not cut any of those programs, do not reduce any of those services. And I don't believe in just throwing money at things. I believe in our director, our city manager, our parks commissioners to trim the waste, that or to be more efficient, to use our dollars smarter. I believe that we're doing all of these things, and I believe that this is a surprise to us because things, as a business owner, I know sometimes it hides in the P&L until all of a sudden, poof, it's there. So it's with this mixed emotion that I'm enthusiastic for a fee. I mean, I can't believe it. I don't like fees more than anybody else, and neither do any of my neighbors, and nor does anybody in this room. But I know that people want to go to the splash pad on a Tuesday. And I know that seniors want to go to the senior center, and they want to go to North Mountain Park, and they want to dig their hands in the dirt. And that is going to be covered by this. So give us some time to figure something else out in the future, whether that be property tax reform, whether that be more tourist fees. But today, for January, we need this. And so as with all of that, and God forbid we don't have an acceptable level of service for people coming to visit here, they won't come back. If we don't have bathrooms for people to go to, they're not gonna smile upon us. They're not gonna want to come here, and they're not gonna want to raise children and have families and do businesses and all the things that we want to grow and thrive as a community. So it's with all of that I support this, and I look forward to more work. The work's not done, but I believe that this is an essential service to keep this community alive and thriving. Thank you.
So as we go through the rest of the comments, we are at 9:21. We have a motion on the table, but we want to preserve the time that we have in case there's anything additional that needs to be done behind this. Councilor Kaplan?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. I'll be briefer than Councilor Hanson on this. But I agree with a lot of what he said. For me, it comes down to the fact that it's a very difficult position that you're in, Rocky, that the city manager is in, that the finance director are in. We're all trying to take these decisions really in a very short frame of time. The Parks Commission expressed some frustration last week, but the same sort of thing. I think we're putting needless pressure on ourselves to try to do this in a rushed way. And I think that the way to give us we have until June before we actually have to approve a budget. To get the way to give us some more time and get more ideas on the table is to approve tonight a $9 fee, which I support, and then continue to work over the next several weeks to see if there are ways to trim that back a little bit by changing some priorities a little bit, looking for some savings, or even to starting to put in place the ideas to have some other revenue options. We're grasping the easiest thing right now. We all know that there are other ways to raise revenues that are a little heavier lift. I think we should be putting ourselves in a position of doing that as well. But I think that the way to take the first step is to approve this $9 fee tonight and give ourselves those extra weeks.
Councilor Bloom.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I just want to say this clearly. I don't oppose funding for parks. I oppose the way that we got here. I've read through the public comment emails, and what strikes me is that many of the people supporting the fee also expressed disappointment in how this process unfolded. They say things like, it feels like we were given no choice, or this doesn't feel like it was thoroughly vetted. That should give us pause. It's not just it's not just the fee, it's the path that we've taken to get here, rushed decision, incomplete transparency, and a lack of engagement with our Parks Commission. This is not how we build trust, and is not how we should be making lasting policy decisions. We can correct course, we have time. The fee doesn't go into effect until January of 2026. There is still a path to develop a collaborative, programmatic solution with the Parks Commission, with the community, and with full financial visibility. We could even bring back a revised proposal within the next few months, but tonight's proposal doesn't meet that standard. This vote is not about whether we value parks, it's about whether we believe our process matters, because I believe it does. And I believe that we can do better than what we are doing right now. So tonight I will be voting no, not because I don't support parks, but because I do. And I want to ensure they are funded in a way that is transparent, equitable, and truly sustainable.
Councilor Dale.
Thank you. In some respects, I understand the situation that we find ourselves in, but mostly I don't. And this incredibly unfortunate that we haven't had the opportunity to participate in a critical planning, budgeting, and forecasting process. We absolutely owe this to each citizen now and especially in the future. This is the fundamental cornerstone of a healthy and sustainable city. Despite making every effort to maintain the professionalism and decorum that this seat and this position requires, inside I am beyond furious at this situation. Despite the very difficult conversation this evening, I do absolutely appreciate the Herculean efforts of all of our staff. That said, I do have hope. I do believe that there are several innovative options. I do not know the specifics because no alternatives were presented other than the one in this slide deck. I'm being asked to vote on a budget shortfall without seeing the budget. The Parks Commission hasn't seen it, the council hasn't seen it. This makes absolutely zero sense to me. I watched the most recent Parks Commission business meeting and this was also brought up for the first time. We keep talking about our children and what they are losing. The numbers don't lie. You could triple this fee or more and the children and indeed all of us are still going to lose it. We're just slightly delaying the inevitable. This is not even close to a solution. You could continually add automatic escalators, you're still going to lose it. If I had what is supposedly the budget in the current form in front of me, which I don't, it still doesn't pencil. This is absolutely not fiscally responsible, and virtually every email that I received in support of this fee had basically the identical theme, which said, I'll pay the fee, just don't take my fill in the blank away. I do not recall the question being asked, what were the various options from which to choose prior to adding a fee? To me, this is the clearest of examples of what false choice looks like. The answer is to have a discussion that has not been taking place for a year. It has been said multiple times tonight, there must be a better way. Having a conversation first is the better way. It is the most sustainable way and with the most foresight. To me, it is so much better than the false and temporary sense of security that this fee, which again is still not enough, provides. We keep looking for easy. Easy no longer exists. I love Ashland. In almost every respect, Ashland is synonymous with our parks. I grew up in these parks, my kids have grown up in these parks, and while I am sure that there are those that believe a no vote is hurting our park system, with every ounce of me, I believe that without a sound, sustainable strategy, with clear forecasting, continued frequent and robust discussions of multiple and short-term, long-term options, then a yes vote is simply causing incalculably more harm right now and in the future to a city and its beloved parks and recreation services that we all love.
Councilor Duquesne.
Thank you, Mayor. for time's sake, I completely agree with my colleagues, Bloom and Dale. Bloomingdale. Anyway, sorry. It's late. I 100% agree, because when I listened to our residents, we read the emails, we heard from everyone, and it sounded as if the most vulnerable were being threatened, our seniors and our children. And I believe it's time for us to go back to the table and sharpen our pencils, and because we've got to do better. We don't have options or any alternatives. This was just given to us and passed on to the residents. I believe that this needs the time that it needs to do the right thing. We all love our parks. We all love our open spaces. That's a big part of why we're all here. And this is not the way to get to where we need to go. It's not how much money you have, it's how you use your money. That's what matters. So I will not be voting for this.
So we find ourselves in an interesting position this evening because of the larger process that we are in. I hear the frustration. I have frustration that this has come on to us so quickly, and there hasn't been time to really go through all the possibilities of what could be brought to bear in order to protect our parks. What is also true is that we are at 9:30 by the time this council votes. So there is no more time to put another motion on the table. If this council does not do this, we have in front of us the list of things that will not be budgeted for when the proposed budget gets put in front of the people of Ashland and in front of the budget committee. I would like to see us buy ourselves some time by putting this in place tonight with the clear direction that says, over these next several weeks, we need to get really clear about where those other possibilities are. People have made suggestions from the podium. People have written in suggestions to us and have written into the Parks Commission. They haven't had enough time, not necessarily because anybody has done anything wrong, but because, as Councilor Hansen said, sometimes you don't see until you see, really, until the whole picture comes clear. And so if this council says no to this, we need to understand that that's what's coming in the budget, and that the Parks and Recreation Department is going to have to start to put things in motion in order to deal with the budget that they have put forward, the recommended budget. The pathway to pull this back exists because at the end of the day, the council is going to get that budget back in front of us at the end of May. There is another bite at this if, in fact, we don't find anything appropriate over the next time of this budget process. But if the council says no tonight, that space is really cut off. It doesn't work properly in the budget process to be adding elements in through the budget committee, because essentially that's a policy-making decision. The council needs to make the policy decisions, and again, could correct when it comes back here if, in fact, we're not seeing the different kinds of opportunities for us. So my hope is that the council would protect its ability to stop these cuts and buy some more time by moving forward this evening with this resolution. So with that, I think everyone has gone around. Roll call, please, Alyssa.
Dale?
No.
Bloom?
No.
Kaplan?
Yes.
Duquesne?
No.
Hansen?
Yes.
Right. Meeting is adjourned.